Why did the Democrats do better in the midterms than expected? We finally have someone who has the answer. So let's talk to him. Austin Allman works at The Intercept, and he wrote a great piece about it called Democrats Rediscover Populism. Austin, welcome back.
Thank you, I appreciate having me on, Cenk.
No problem. So you say that there is a number of theories as to why the Democrats did better, and then you focus in on one in particular. So tell us the different theories that people in DC have for why the Democrats did better than expected in the midterm elections.
Sure, so I mean, the first one is obviously Dobbs and the effect that that had on the electorate, right? It was a reminder of growing radicalization in the Republican Party, and that activated a lot of voters, especially in the middle, who are leery of extremes. The second one would be obviously that January 6th, the aftermath, another reminder of Republican extremism really being hammered in by a lot of candidates across the country, and especially in seats where people had actual control over election administration. So you saw that in Arizona, you saw that in Nevada, et cetera, et cetera. But the other thing that I think people really are missing, and the theory that I dive into the most in my piece, is that Democrats ran, by and large, the most populist economic message that they've run in at least 20 years. And I think that you need a narrative that combines all three, especially in areas where there were not direct threats to people's liberties at the ballot box, whether, if they're in New York, abortion rights are pretty enshrined. And so if you need something to explain the successes and failures in the different states beyond just those two social issue theories. And so I talk a lot about economic populism in the piece that you mentioned, and I assume we'll dive into it a little bit now.
Yeah, so guys, every election, of course, is complicated. And so did abortion make a big difference? Yes, and it made it in specific places like Pennsylvania. And you could trace the exit polling, the results, et cetera. Did the stuff about democracy work? Actually, it did in a lot of places, and especially against Secretary of States and against the most extreme Trump candidates. But it didn't work in all instances, especially when the Republican was more moderate, as Austin explains in his piece, right? But the populism piece, Austin, is the part that almost no one else is talking about, to the point where honestly, I missed a lot of it. And I didn't see it until I read your piece. So for example, I thought one of the few predictions I got wrong, so yes, that snuck in a little bit of a humble brag there about the election, although there's not much to brag about because I thought Democrats would do worse overall. But I thought Cortez Masto would lose in Nevada. But that's because I didn't know the populist ads that she was running. So tell us about that, because that was interesting and surprising.
Yeah, so the most viral ad of the Cortez Masto campaign, which, she's a pretty standard Democrat. She's not centrist per se, but she's a mainstream liberal Democrat. And she ran ads just absolutely obliterating her opponent, Adam Laxalt, as a lobbyist, as the son of a wealthy political family, as this and that, as rigged by wealthy donors, et cetera, et cetera. I think it was a minute-long piece, and it was just devastating. And it was the exact type of ads that a lot of us talk about wanting to see in left-wing media circles from candidates. But it didn't draw a lot of the attention from national media who were covering the race, even though it was huge on the ground. And when you look at the numbers on just like channel views, et cetera, those were the ones that got heat and got traction.
Yeah. So at the end, we'll get to whether they're actually going to do anything about any of this. But in terms of the people who ran correctly and the ones who ran incorrectly on this issue of populism, you had a couple like Katie Porter who are now in more red districts after redistricting. And she's more of a progressive, Medicare for all, attacking the corporate executives in the hearings, et cetera. And then you had people who are more open to the corporate world, being euphemistic there, the Tom Malinowski's in New Jersey, et cetera. So what happened to those two different groups? Because if you watch mainstream media, you would think, oh, Malinowski and those guys, of course, won because they were centrist Democrats, and the Porters, et cetera, lost because they were wild-eyed radical progressives. What happened in reality?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a small sample size when we're talking about incumbents that lost re-election, because most Democratic incumbents really did make it over the finish line. And you're especially talking small sample size when you're talking about Democrats that still represent Trump seats. There are only 5. But even small sample size concerns aside, really, there's no way to look at who remains in Trump won seats in the Democratic Party and who lost this election and not say that there's an economic explanation there. Right, so you had, I believe, 6 Democrats that were incumbent Democrats that ran for re-election that lost. Every single member was a member of the New Democrat Caucus. So that's the corporate-friendly, by name, by virtue, centrist, mealy-mouthed sorts of Democrats. And all of them came from that caucus. Now, some of them were drawn into districts that were just, you were never going to defend them no matter how good of a candidate you are. But some of them were in perfectly winnable districts. So I specifically focus on Elaine Luria in that piece. Elaine Luria is the only Democrat in the House who's from a swing seat who served on the January 6th committee. She made it a huge part of her campaign, and she had a great foil for it. She had Elaine Kiggins, who was an election denier, a state senator with a bad history on abortion rights, et cetera. And she ran straight through with this type of candidacy. And she ran 4 points behind Biden, and she lost. It was the second biggest underperformance among this group, except for Sean Patrick Maloney, which we've all heard about. And, if you're trying to parse for an explanation of why did she do so poorly? What happened? This was such a promising campaign. It ran on the messages that everybody is saying is the winning message. Well, in reality, what she had done a few months prior to all of this work on the committee is that she had helped Democratic leadership blow up the stock trading ban. She went on, Punchbowl News's interview tour. She called it bull. She said that she was questioned the motives of people that were pushing for the ban, pushing for reforms in this area. A key, easy, low-hanging fruit populist reform, and she blasted it. And that ended up in Elaine Kiggins' ads. It ended up in debates, and really is one of the few clear explanations for her underperformance.
So when you've got the centrists not running as populist, they lost. Maybe they would have lost anyway, but they lost. When you had the Porters running on economic populism, even in relatively red to purple districts, they won. And I know every time people in Washington tell me it's a coincidence, I'm beginning to believe that it might not be a coincidence.
No, I agree with that. It's not a coincidence at all. So, I mean, Porter's seat was a tough one. She ended up running ahead of every other statewide elected Democrat. You know, she ran ahead of Newsom, she ran ahead of Padilla, she ran ahead of just about everybody in a tough year in that area. And it wasn't just her. Even some of the people who aren't your traditional, you know, rah fiery populists, if they have that piece of their message and their history, they still did well. And I think a great example of this is in Ohio, Marcy Kaptur. She is the longest serving woman in House history now. With her reelection, she will have earned that title. And she has always had this populist Rust Belt streak that comes in many forms, whether it's opposing trade deals that have been really terrible for parts of the middle and working class, whether that's signaling openness to things like Medicare for all. She's always been there, even if she's not all in. That's been a piece of her messaging, and her instincts are clearly there. And it's enabled her to win quite an interesting title as longest serving woman while representing Trump territory for decades.
Yeah, and so in a sense, one of the things I was surprised by, Austin, was that they received permission to run these ads. And what I mean by that is usually what winds up happening is that they are getting their money from the donor class. And then the donor class does not like radical populism where you honestly and correctly point out the problems with the wealthy and the powerful. The wealthy and the powerful generally don't like that and don't like to fund that. So, but in this case, the Democrats were not stopped from, even like so-called centrist, moderate Democrats, in reality, corporate Democrats that take tons of donor money, were not stopped from running those ads, which was interesting in and of itself. What do you think happened there?
Well, so I did some reporting earlier in the cycle, and you won't hear me say nice things about the House Majority PAC and DCCC very often, but I think that this cycle, you're right to see that there was a bit of a more lax permission structure around these types of things, and even encouragement. You know, there was poll testing of some of the messaging around like price gouging from oil companies that came from the top, and I think part of it was just the dire straits of this cycle. You know, a lot of the Democratic, more establishment figures, every 2 years, there's a narrative about how this is the most important election of your lifetime. And if you don't vote this time, we're going to lose everything, right? But I think this time they actually believed it, right? And so that belief in the importance of this election for the future of democracy was genuine, and it led people to realize that the polling numbers have always been the polling numbers. Progressive policies, especially populist economic progressive policies, have always been winners by any metric. Even the popularists in the party who sometimes warn against the left flank's excesses will admit that when it comes to basic issues like prescription drug reform, stock trading ban, things of that nature, the progressive position, and saying it loudly and unapologetically, is the way to go. And I think that there was finally what felt like high enough stakes for some of the people that are usually detached from some of the basic realities of these policies to get on board.
So in other words, they panicked and they're like, press the progressive button, otherwise we're gonna lose. They did press the button and they wound up doing a lot better. But Austin, doesn't that mean by definition, they can press that button anytime they like and they just choose not to? That if they, and like that the people in charge of the Democratic Party even know that fact. That's why when they panicked, they pressed it. And so if they wanted to, they could run deeply populist campaigns and rout the Republicans.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly is a pretty solid takeaway. I don't necessarily have that nuance of a view of how some of the establishment are responding to how their economic messaging did, but I sure hope that that's their takeaway, right? That they understand that this won for a reason. You don't see candidates like Mary Peltola, running as pro-fish, pro-choice, and frankly nothing else in Alaska, and not want to emulate that, right? Like a 1-2 winning message on social issues, abortion rights, and then 2, like, I'm going to protect you from corporate fisheries that are ruining the beauty of our home state. It's quite the knockout. And I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure going forward, I would hope and I would think, to give candidates that kind of space to take on corporate interests in their home state, in their home district, that are familiar to voters and that really help set them apart and give them an on the ground enemy that they're in combat with going forward.
Thank you for the piece. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, Cenk.
No problem. All right, do we have rising terrorism in the country? And most importantly, where's it coming from? Well, let's talk about it. Wajahat Ali joins us he's a senior fellow at the Western State Center. Waj, welcome to the program.
Hey, Cenk, how's it going, man? Two Muslim men with multi-syllabic names, but I'm gonna go with the monosyllable Waj to match your Cenk today.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so has terrorism increased in America, and where's it coming?
Yeah, the number one domestic terror threat in America, Cenk, is white supremacist terrorism. It's been this case for the past few years, but surprisingly, we haven't heard about it. And we're not talking about War on Terror, the sequel, Terror Harder, because the culprits of this terrorism represent, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but this is the reality according to all the data and facts, right-wing circles, an increasingly incestuous group of right-wing ecosystems that are motivated by conspiracy theories that see the rest of us, especially you and me, Cenk, people of color, black folks, women, and LGBTQ as invaders who are trying to replace and weaken quote unquote Western civilization, which is code word for white people.
Of course. Okay, let's talk about the degree to which it's happened. I mean, I see in your piece, or in a different piece, I should say, 3 times as many domestic terrorism investigations as 5 years ago. So that is a lot of extra terrorism. And it appears that they have a number of different categories. And I was amused by one of them, which is animal rights and environmental terrorism. Now, why would I be amused by any terrorism? Because I think that that's like leftover stuff from a different era. It's apparently less than 1% of the cases. Well, as I was reading that, I had the sense that they kept that category, even though there's almost nothing in it, just to be able to say, oh, both sides do it.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not just that, but it's 2009, Daryl Johnson of the DHS, he published a report where he warned about the rise in right-wing terrorism. Now, again, this is 2009, Cenk. That report was quashed internally. He had to go become a kind of a whistleblower. Spencer Ackerman, when he was at Wired, did a piece with him. Daryl Johnson later wrote a book. And he said there was political pressure from Republicans in particular because they realized that research, which warned, again, about the rise of domestic terrorism, the rise of right-wing terrorism, made them and their movement look bad. So all these alleged patriots, right, who fight for national security and care about the war on terror, and there were such hawks when it comes to black folks and brown folks and poor folks, when it comes to their own team of many, let's just be honest about it, white conservatives who are committing these acts, they kept quiet, they quashed it. We also saw that the DHS under Donald Trump, according to a whistleblower, was told that they're going to downplay the threat of white supremacist terrorism, the number one domestic terror threat in America, and upplay Antifa and BLM. So again, what we're seeing is this incestuous system, right? It's not outliers, Cenk. And what people need to realize is that this is part and parcel of the modern conservative movement. If you don't believe me and you think I'm just being partisan here, I give you the January 6th violent insurrection. A violent coup attempt, thankfully it was failed, that resulted in the deaths of 5 people. And the Republican National Committee, Cenk, I always want to remind people this, called those violent insurrectionists ordinary citizens engaged in a legitimate discourse. So when you have the affirmation of a violent insurrection from the GOP and the RNC itself, and then you have the repetition of violent conspiracy theories, which our own FBI is saying, listen, QAnon has the power of radicalizing individuals. Deep state conspiracy theory has the power of radicalizing individuals. When the number 3 leader of the Republican Party, Elise Stefanik, is promoting deep state conspiracy theories, no wonder they're looking out for their own team. And unfortunately, there are extremists and terrorists on that right-wing team right now.
Yes, Waj, I know you go on mainstream media a lot. You don't have to convince anybody in this audience. We already do the facts, and we're not scared of the right wing like everyone in corporate media is. And so, yes, it's overwhelmingly right wingers. Overwhelmingly. I'm not talking about bias. I'm not talking about perspective. I'm talking about facts. The facts are that almost, well, let's put it this way: the great majority, at least 80%. Of the domestic terrorism in this country, according to the FBI, comes from right-wing extremists. So it's absolutely clear. And by the way, it's not, so Trump wanted to emphasize Antifa and BLM as you're talking about, but it was Obama who was scared in 2009 and afraid that Rush Limbaugh on Fox News had criticized them. So he backed away from a report prepared under George W. Bush. So they keep, being afraid to call it what it is. In fact, let's talk about the National Defense Authorization Act. It just passed, well over $800 billion. Yet we haven't been attacked from outside the country since arguably 9/11, right? So that's now been 21 years, right? But we have right-wing terrorists attacking us and killing citizens in acts of terrorism pretty much nonstop. So do we have a sense of proportionality as to the threats here? Shouldn't we be spending $800 billion to counter right-wing extremists and not on defense, which just goes to Lockheed Martin executives' salaries?
Look, dark humor here. It's good to be a white terrorist. I mean, can you imagine if you and me, Cenk? I mean, if you and me just decided to take a bunch of our brown and black friends with Muslimly sounding names and go to the US Capitol and just protest, right? And speak in Turkish and Arabic, no weapons. About 5,000 of us, suppose we just did that peacefully. There would be chalk lines. I can't even imagine a bunch of black and brown folks doing January 6th. And God forbid if that ever happened, like I said, there would be war and terror to terror harder. I mean, they would crack down. They already did this in the post-war and terror climate. People forget that there was a Muslim registry called NSEERS. Thousands of innocent immigrants were deported. There was surveillance against Muslim communities. Those who not just were Muslim, Cenk, but Muslimi, including Sikh Americans, got killed by white supremacists, right? So our communities were the focus of like unrelenting pressure, and we've really felt the boot of law enforcement and DOJ on our necks. But right now, as you know, just tonight, TPM, Talking Points Memo, released thousands of texts that they gathered from Mark Meadows, and there were elected officials or Republicans who were part and parcel of these violent insurrectionists who were asking, Mark Meadows to pretty much go along with the coup. We also saw Ginny Thomas, the wife of Clarence Thomas, a sitting Supreme Court justice who still to this day believes in the big lie and tried to use her pressure and influence to promote a coup. And yet nothing has happened to them. No accountability, no prosecution. So there is a double standard and there is a lack of proportionality due to whiteness. And also, I'm glad you mentioned it, every single institution, including Democrats historically, has bent the knee to bad faith right-wing pressure. And the question is, why does the majority tolerate the terrorism from the right wing? Why do we allow ourselves to be victimized by these people? And the last thing I'll say, in the past few months, you've seen the rise in stochastic terrorism, Cenk. And stochastic terrorism is when the right wing in particular uses mass media to target certain individuals and groups that results in random but statistically probable acts of violence. Poll workers, elected officials, doctors, hospitals, educators, all people and LGBTQ community, all people and groups who have been targeted by Tucker Carlson and the right wing, and we sit there and allow ourselves to get terrorized. Why?
Yes, and look, it just arguably happened again. Today we covered the story of Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that if me and Steve Bannon had planned January 6th, we would have come armed. That's a cue to her audience and her followers. Now remember, the next time you confront Democratic politicians and politicians you don't agree with, make sure you have a weapon with you. That's just, and Matt Gaetz has talked about your Second Amendment rights in regards to politicians that they don't agree with. Madison Cawthorn has done the same. They're constantly agitating and instigating violence, very much on purpose. And by the way, I mean, as one of our viewers pointed out, it was almost like a O.J. Simpson-like speech. Now, if I had planned January 6th, okay, except certainly Steve Bannon did, and Marjorie Taylor Greene did partially. But to your point about January 6th, by the way, there was the very first thing we said on TYT. If they were Black Lives Matter protesters, it would have been a massacre. And if it was Muslim protesters that stormed the Capitol and were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," where's Nancy Pelosi? We're gonna hang her and kill her, right? I don't know that anyone in the crowd would have survived. I think they might have killed them all. And
Yeah, we would have had dead bodies, man. There would have been. I mean, we need dark humor for dark times. I said there'd just be lots of chalk lines. You and me would be a chalk line. And let's not forget, Marjorie Taylor Greene said at that gala, it was not just some rinky-dink place. This was the part and parcel of the GOP. This was a gala with Marjorie Taylor Greene and people from VDare, one of these extremist right-wing white nationalist sites. He was there. The founder was there. Jack Posobiec. I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly. I don't care. One of the leading conspiracy theorists. He was there. She said we would have been armed. Well, guess what? They were armed, Cenk. They were armed. They were armed with flagpoles. Some people had guns. Some people brought pepper spray, nooses, with the intention of hanging and assassinating both Nancy Pelosi and Mike Pence. And the fact that to this day that they are still seen as ordinary citizens, and some Republicans call them, heroes, and Paul Gosar calls Ashley Babbitt a violent extremist who was radicalized by QAnon, by the way, the same violent conspiracy theorist that now Trump promotes on Truth Social. She's now seen as a hero as well. What we're dealing with is a radicalized and weaponized movement. And again, I realize when people hear me or you, they might say, oh, it's these lefties or these people who are progressive. But I've tried to just point out a very sober case here using their own words, taking them literally and seriously. When they're literally telling you their plot, and they're telling you that they want to kill you and attack you and overthrow this democracy, a flawed democracy, but democracy nonetheless, then do we not call that terrorism? And since we have a history of attacking brown people and black people for war on terror and tough on crime, why do these criminals who are openly doing a coup, an ongoing coup, get away scot-free?
All right, Wajahat Ali, writing at the Daily Beast and is a senior fellow at the Western State Center. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Woo! Get some!
Turks, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys. We're gonna have kind of an amazing show for you guys. So
it's all over the place.
It is. But look, we've got important stories about the economy and politics. But guys, I am beginning to see blue on the retirement of Donald J. Trump. I'm beginning to see it. You're not gonna stop me from saying it.
So the optimist is here.
Okay.
Full swing.
A little bit, a little bit. But when you tell you the story, you're gonna say, But then later in the second hour, you're gonna go pessimistic about clitorises.
Okay. Is it clitori or clitorises?
I don't know. I've been wondering that all day. Is it clitori?
Listen, I know it sounds like it's a joke of a story, but it's not. I think there's an important commentary there about the lack of knowledge we have about our own anatomy.
No, that actually, first of all, that's totally true.
Yes.
Is it an epidemic? Yes. Pandemic? No. But this most stunning fact is not the Trump numbers, although they're stunning. The most stunning fact is buried, if you will, in that story.
Yes.
So don't miss that one. All right, let's do it.
We won't. All right. Well, we begin with something rare here at the TYT. We're going to give a major company some credit.
Whoa.
Costco has decided to go against the grain and absorb the higher costs that manufacturers are charging them due to inflation. They're doing this instead of passing down the inflationary cost to the consumer. And it turns out that their financial partners, Citibank in particular, Citigroup, not too happy about it. During their recent earnings call, Costco's management actually pushed back against one Citigroup analyst who ain't about that life, okay? You should be forcing your customers to pay more, okay? You're gonna increase your profits, and then that means you're gonna increase our profits, okay? That's what we need you to do.
Why does the banker sound like Trump?
No, because the bankers are all mob bosses, that's why, okay? That's why.
That's what a mob boss sounds like?
Yeah.
Okay.
So no, but
we're gonna need you to increase your profits. That doesn't really sound like a mob boss. But I hear you,
Now, here's what happened. Again, earnings call, they do this every quarter. This is for investors and analysts to decide whether or not they want to keep investing and analyzing the company that's having the earnings call. Wall Street is pushing Costco for higher profits at the expense of customers, writes More Perfect Union. In yesterday's earnings call, Costco's management faced pressure around its decision to absorb some grocery inflation instead of raising prices. Why make that decision? A Citigroup analyst asked. Why make that decision, huh? Why make that decision?
Now, but by the way, now beginning to sound more like a mob boss, both in style and substance, because I can see a mob boss saying, "You cost us money. Why you make this decision, huh?
Totally.
Why you make this decision?"
But we should envision it in that exact way, okay?
Yes.
Because think about what they're asking for. In fact, I don't need you to think about it. I'll just
don't
tell
even.
you.
Don't
I'll
even
tell
think
you,
about it.
I'll tell you what they're.
She's gonna say it right
What they're
now.
up to. Now, the analyst argued that Costco could have pushed prices higher because, get a load of this, consumers have been, quote, happy to take increased price, especially in fresh.
I think you're fresh.
They're happy to take the increased price, okay?
They're
Mr.
happy about it.
Calamari, okay? Alan Weisselberg.
Yeah. Now, Tony went over and talked to them and made sure that they're happy to take the increased price. Okay, and everything's all fresh now. So go ahead, Costco, give them the higher price. They're happy about it. But Costco says no. In a shocking turn of events.
They say no, and it is a smart business strategy. I think that they end up winning at the end of the day, and I'll tell you why. But I do also want to give More Perfect Union a lot of credit for their thoroughness in putting in parentheses that fresh refers to products like produce, meat, and dairy, okay?
Okay, good.
And he continues to say, or actually Costco's CFO responds with, in our view, people notice those price differences. And he's absolutely right about that. Now remember, when we recently covered some of the proposed grocery chain mergers, we disclosed just how many grocery store companies actually exist, and there aren't very many options. There's like 4 of them, right? So the grocery industry is really monopolizing, and as a result, consumers really have no choice but to deal with the higher prices as they're being price gouged by these grocery chains. But Costco has decided to go in a different direction, and that really has been part of their business model from the beginning. That's part of the reason why they've been so successful. You know, the way that they carry out their whole shopping experience is very different. You go into a giant warehouse, there are pallets, stacked up to the ceiling. You have to be a Costco member, of course, to shop there, but everything is far more affordable because either, they get to offer lower prices because there are no bells and whistles when you go to the warehouse to buy products at Costco. And also if they deal with some of these manufacturers who are maybe increasing their prices due to inflation, well, Costco has its own private label. Let's take a look at the video. Explains a little more about that.
I got the Kirkland brand microwave popcorn. I got 2 packs of bottled water.
Kirkland is Costco's, private label brand. It's their store brand. It's a brand that when they want to offer something at a certain price that they don't feel a manufacturer, a supplier can do it, they build it themselves.
Since it was launched in 1995, the in-house brand has built a reputation for quality and low prices on everyday items. Today, Kirkland products make up a quarter of Costco's $166 billion in annual sales.
So Costco is basically letting the manufacturers know, oh, you're gonna charge us inflated prices for these products. How about we have our own private label, we can manufacture this product ourselves, slap the Kirkland brand on it and sell it, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
And you know what, like the video states, and look, this isn't a plug, this isn't like an advertisement for Costco, this is genuinely how I feel about Costco. The Kirkland products are good quality, right? Oftentimes when you buy the store brand version of whatever the item is, you're giving up a little bit of quality in order to save some money. In my experience, that hasn't been the case with Kirkland.
All right, well, God bless. Look, I know a lot of digital media companies that used to do these kind of things for real as an ad, right?
Right.
And be like, I was just at Walmart. I'll tell you, their cheese bowls are delicious. Okay, so that's not what's going on here. But we do want to encourage and reward good guy companies. And there's a thing called the good economy. So I don't know if the Costco's technically part of it, but I know that they've done a lot of things where you go, oh wow, look at Costco taking care of their employees, paying higher wages, now blocking higher prices, good quality product. And by the way, guys, so like capitalism's taking a beating here in America for good reason, because in my opinion, it got swallowed up by corporatism, which is just awful, and everybody despises right wing, left wing, it doesn't matter, right? But here's an example of capitalism working right. This is actually partly how it's supposed to work. The reason why it doesn't work this way in terms of creating competition, which lowers prices and brings you better products, is because we really don't have capitalism in America anymore. The corporations captured the government, so then they don't really need to compete. That's why Costco's kind of driving the entire market crazy. They're like, stop it. We had a good thing going. We could charge them whatever the hell we want. They're happy to take it, right? Because they don't have any other choices and they have to eat. But now you're giving them another goddamn choice.
Right, well, Costco isn't part of these big chain monopolies, right? And so as a result, it serves as a competition.
Yes.
And that competition is so incredibly important, and they've decided to go with a business. Look, okay, let's just call it what it is, because I also don't want to be one of these like dopey, hosts that's like, oh, they're doing this because they're so moral and they're so kind. No, they're doing it because they see this as the more effective business model.
But by the way, I don't see that much of a distinction between those two things. If you think that the right business model is to be good to people and your employees and customers, well, that's great. I hope you make a lot of money from it. I hope you make tons and tons of money from it.
I know,
because you're keeping the price at a place where we could pay them, right?
Right.
Your margin is at a reasonable rate, and that's what a good company's supposed to do. If you lower it any past that, you're not going to be sustainable, and then you're not going to even exist.
Okay, let me explain what I mean, though. I think that it is a common mistake to think of either politicians or companies as either moral or immoral. There is no morality involved at all. Let's just keep it real. Maybe in some cases when it comes to some politicians, but even then I'm willing to debate that. When it comes to companies, morality is not part of the mix at all. They are driven by incentives and disincentives. So for instance, if I think about this on a very personal level, I've had a Costco membership, but it's just me and my husband, right? We don't have a big family, and going to Costco, even though we had the membership, didn't always make sense because buying things in bulk seems too much, right?
Yeah, me too.
However, during this inflationary period, some of our favorite grocery items, for instance, there's a brand of bread that we really like. It went from $5 a loaf to $8 a loaf.
That's a lot.
At the grocery store closest to where we live.
Were you happy to receive that?
I wasn't happy to receive that. I must be honest. To the dismay of this wonderful Citigroup analyst, I wasn't happy. But nonetheless, once I realized that you could buy 2 loaves of that bread in a pack at Costco for $10, meaning I'm going back to paying $5 a loaf.
Yeah.
I jump in it, right? So I started shopping at Costco more.
Yeah.
And I do all my grocery shopping
That's
there now.
how the free markets are supposed to work. But we don't have free markets because of all the corruption. There's definitely someone, the leader of Costco is clearly a smart and moral guy based on the decisions that I've seen.
Say moral.
Hold on. But I'm getting to your point, Anna.
Yeah.
Okay, I said the leader must be, okay? But look at the pressure that he's under because it's a public corporation. The Citibank goons are coming in going, everybody's happy to receive the price. What's the matter with you, right? And they are turning down some profits. They're literally turning down profits now. Again, it's good business because you're turning down short-term profits for more long-term profits and more sustained profits, right? So it's smart. But there's pressure in the markets to be greedy, to think short term, and to give me the goddamn money right now.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So they have a much better, in my opinion, business strategy, long-term strategy, and they're still bringing in quite a bit in revenue. For instance, in the last quarter, they brought in a whopping $53 billion in revenue. So they ain't hurting, okay?
In one quarter, guys.
In one quarter, that's how much they brought in.
That means it's coming over $200 billion for the whole year.
And if you're wondering on how much it has impacted their bottom line in regard to refusing to pass on the inflated manufacturer prices to the consumers, well, their profit margin honestly isn't impacted all that much. So their profit margin would have been 12.7%. And since they're not price gouging their customers, it is now 12.2%. So 0.5% difference.
No, but in Wall Street, that's a huge difference.
I get it, yeah, but go ahead and cry about it, Citigroup. Go ahead and cry about it.
And by the way, so it's not a matter of crying. What they do is they go, okay, we're gonna mark you down. That's what the analyst's job is. So these guys are not greedy enough. So we're gonna punish you by suggesting to people that they should sell your stock and your stock price is gonna go down. And apparently they've got a leader smart enough to go, have at it, Hoss. Okay, I'm willing to take the short-term hit to build a better business. And he is building a better business because like Anna had that experience well before this article came out, and you're hearing it from other people. And yes, in the long run, if you provide a good service and you're good to your community, you do better. And guys, look, if you're on the left, you wanna encourage that. Because everyone else, the entire market is encouraging the opposite, right? But the way that you do basically a consumer revolution is say, no, I'm gonna go to the good guys. I'm not gonna go to the bad guys. And so our society, it's not just the stock market, is structured around making the bad guys feel good and the good guys feel bad. Why? Because the bad guys are like, oh, smart, savvy businessmen, made as much money as possible. They're geniuses. What a great CEO, right? A good guy says, no, let's build a long-term business. They're like, oh, you think you're a good guy? And what are you gonna do, keep the money? Ha ha, he kept the money. Wait, hold on, so did the other prick. And he was way worse. And it's better that you make money doing something positive in the world than make money doing something terrible in the world, as most corporations are doing.
Now let's juxtapose that story with the antithesis of what Costco has been up to.
In New Orleans, a line of people looking for help with their power bills wrapped around a building. Some people carrying 4-figure utility bills. The city doing what it can to help renters find relief.
Utility companies are robbing you. That's the simple way to think about this, because about 20 million Americans are now behind on paying their energy bills. And there's a very real reason why they've been paying increased rates. Yes, some of it has to do with the war in Ukraine and the increase in energy prices, but some percentage of those energy price hikes actually have more to do with them wanting to increase their profits and engage in corporate stock buybacks. And Americans are suffering as a result. This is according to a new report by a watchdog group known as accountable.us. They do really great work when it comes to corporate greed. And they talk about the 9 largest energy firms that brought in a whopping $13.8 billion in the first 9 months of this fiscal year alone, okay? At the same time, again, you have 20 million Americans who are having difficulty paying their energy bills. And in much of the country, the temperatures are freezing right now. We're about to experience yet another cold front. Now, that is a lot of money, and they sure have been charging us a lot just so we can keep our homes warm, so we can cook food in our homes. Well, what did they do with all that money? I'm sure some rebates for the customers, right? Who have been crushed by this inflation. No, the firms actually returned over $11.2 billion to shareholders during that period in the form of dividends and stock buybacks, a story as old as time in a country with an economic system that's really rigged against its people. Now, utility costs have also been so astronomical, again, that 20 million people have had difficulty paying their utility payments. Southern Company's Georgia subsidiary, for instance, had a near 12% rate hike approved in June of 2022. And in August of 2022, its Tennessee subsidiary was granted a rate hike that would result in typical monthly home heating bills rising by about 25%. According to the analysis done by accountable.us. And for those of you wondering, what's going on nationwide? Well, nationwide investor-owned utilities have requested rate increases amounting to nearly $12 billion from the beginning of the year through the end of August, according to S&P Global. So for those who have fallen victim to this narrative that these utility companies have no choice, they have no choice. I mean, gas prices are up. There's all these problems because of the war in Ukraine. It is what it is. They have no choice. That is a lie, and that lie is evident in the amount of money they are returning to their shareholders in the form of stock buybacks and dividends.
Yes, and so this is a natural monopoly, and in a natural monopoly, the government must regulate. Otherwise, you're going to say, well, look, it's winter, you need heat. I'm the only one who's providing it, so you could freeze or you could pay me any damn thing I like. So the government has to regulate and make sure that they're charging a fair price. Where's the government?
Yeah.
Right, and so utility companies figured out what all other companies did, but they actually figured it out relatively early. And for them, most of their giving is not at the national level, it's at the state level. So if you go and look at campaign contributors and donors at the state level, in a lot of the states, if they're not number one, they're certainly among the top 3 or 4. Utilities are right up there, because if your fate is controlled by politicians and they're going to determine whether you make 14 billion or 12 billion or 2 billion, right? These are giant numbers. Is it going to pay to grease some politicians at the state level? Of course.
Oh, and I mean, Capitol Hill is greasier than a Turkish wrestling match. I mean,
curious analogy, but correct, correct. But in this case, it's the state capitals, and so you go find a governor, and you'll find utility grease all over them, including Governor Gavin Newsom in California.
Absolutely.
And then they let him do this. They let him take risks with your lives, whether it's fires in California or the freezing cold in Texas. You remember Ted Cruz ran to Cancun when that happened. And this is how they rob us.
Exactly, and notice that the majority of the price gouging that Americans are experiencing today has to do with items that you need to survive, right? So when we're talking about utilities, we're talking about a resource that people absolutely need to survive, especially in parts of the country where the temperatures are frigid, where they need warmth, where they need their gas ovens or whatever they use, electric ovens to cook. So there is no, sure, you could freeze to death in your home by trying to conserve energy. But fact of the matter is people get desperate, these utility companies know it, and the consumer has no choice but to pay these insane inflated prices where they're clearly being price gouged to increase the profits, which then get passed off to the investors here. So it's just, this is how the system works. It's very rare to find a company or a corporation that's willing to go against the grain. Yeah. We recently talked about Costco's business model, which is definitely different, and they've pushed back against investors during earnings calls where they're essentially trying to encourage executives at Costco to price gouge their customers, but they're refusing to do it. That is an exception. That is very rare. under today's system.
So look, some on the left might argue that you should say that utilities are basically free because we're not going to let anyone freeze to death. And that's a good argument. And Jamal Bowman, Corey Bush, and Rashida Tlaib are making some form of that argument right now in a bill they've introduced in the House. But even if you're in the camp of, no, listen, brother, you got to pay your bills. So that otherwise, you're forcing us to cut your electricity, right? If you're in that camp, but think about it, guys, since it's a monopoly, the government is making a decision between whether those people who could barely afford it have to pay 25% more, or the incredibly rich executives and shareholders get more money. Because in this case, it's a zero-sum game. Either one side is going to get more money or the other is. And in the case of the customers, it's not just about money. If you don't have enough money, you also lose your electricity.
Yes.
And you face some dire situations. And over again, government officials paid by these same exact companies through campaign contributions, coincidentally decide, no, the incredibly rich should get 25% more, and some of you should have your electricity cut off. And that is a brutal decision that they make, and that's the cost of bribery that we all live under in America.
When we come back from the break, we'll give you some updates on the indictments that Sam Bankman-Fried is facing, including the testimony that he was supposed to give to Congress. It's been obtained by the media. We'll tell you what he was planning on saying and more when we come back.
All right, back on TYT. Let's go to the members first on TYT.com. Sunshine Salt Princess says, just finished watching the 15-minute 20th anniversary video. It hit me right in the feels and drew a few aspirational and hopeful tears. I'm so ready for the future. Thank you for the reminder that we still have so much to fight for. I love that you enjoyed that movie. You're not alone. I'm getting look, is there a buzz about it? A little bit of buzz, okay? People seem to like it. So become a member today. Check it out if you're already a member. It says he just told you, or they just told you. It's short, it's 15 minutes, but it's good feels, okay? And that's for the members, tyt.com/join to become a member. All right, Mission All writes in, we're happy to take it. How about we want to eat, LOL. You're not the only one saying that, several other people said it in other parts of the comments too. Yes, in a situation where you don't have any other choice, well, you gotta eat, and the price becomes inelastic. And they could basically charge anything, not anything they want, but close to anything they want. The only way that if it's a real monopoly or oligopoly, that people stop paying it is if they're near starvation. So that's why they keep on charging more and more, and Costco's ruining that game for them. I do declare, wrote in, shows Wall Street is short-sighted. Costco stock dropped 3% after earnings, but did bounce back a bit. Since it's down 13% year to date, could be a buying opportunity since they will make up lower profits by more sales. Look, I wouldn't take financial advice from me or any of our members. It's a little random, right? And with investing, it's all about the timing. So even if you're right, you might get it wrong on the timing. Having said that, that's a pretty good idea, and I love that you did research on it. Looks like you're helping the show, contributing to the show. What happens to people who contribute to the show? They get $100, okay? So $100 Blue Apron gift card. Go to rewards@tyt.com to verify that you're a member, and you'll get that. Twitch has Fiddle and Nero that says, organized crime has never been more organized. That is such a great way of putting it. Yes, because organized crime is now run by guys in suits and sanctioned by the government. They are very organized. Down, no. Oh no, am I gonna do it again? Well, if you're a member, $100 Blue Apron gift card, okay? Rewards@tyt.com. Fiddle and Nero, you could fiddle while you cook. Nicole Purple writes in on the YouTube member section, love watching TYT. Anna is my favorite Salt Dragon host. Hope everyone is having a great day. Well, now we're having a little bit better day because now we found out who your favorite host is.
Thank you.
Okay, the anti-corporatist writes in, Cenk needs to do some pro wrestling just so we can see him drop the people's elbow on someone. Damn right, okay. Woo! I'd love to do that. You kidding? I grew up on that. Kevin Bart says, Anna Pesci. Look, she could be someone with a phone. Don't think she won't do it. Okay, Darren Nichols says, Respect for Marriage Act was signed. Love wins over hate. There you go, Darren, love it. And thank you for giving us that news. Guys, that bill's a little complicated, but hey, I'll take the symbolic win, and it's very important and it's great. So that's great, and I am out of time. tyt.com/join. You know that big, beautiful join button below the video on YouTube too. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Also, just Linamo just joined. There's no way that's how you pronounce it. But you're an American hero for becoming a Young Turks member and help us do this show. It's a good time for it. We're doing Food for Thought trivia. Giving away a $100 gift card to 100 members on Friday. If you get the trivia question right, which comes from these live shows, so pay attention, all right? And every once in a while, for good comments, I just give them away for, like it's Vaseline and it's the Tyra Banks show. All right, now I go to Ann.
Yeah, okay. Let's do it. So, next story. Sam Bankman-Fried has been arrested in the Bahamas and is expected to be extradited here in the United States, where he faces charges of money laundering, conspiracy, and financial fraud. Now, prior to his arrest, Fried was planning to testify before the House Committee on Financial Services, and Forbes obtained what he was planning to say. Now, it's a lengthy statement to say the least, lengthy testimony, but it seems as though he was planning on lying in a lot of ways. So I'll give you, I'll give you some excerpts that I think are relevant here. First, he starts off with something that is not a lie, so credit where credit is due. He begins it with, I would like to start by formally stating under oath, I effed up.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
But, well, so Anna, you're right that that's true, but even that's misleading because he makes it seem like, oops, it was an honest mistake. Oh, I was gonna go left, but I went right. Oh, I effed up. No, you planned to move the funds around so you could make money off of other people's money, and then you lost that money because you were greedy. That's not effing up, that's doing it on purpose. That's a different situation. But okay, it's a good start though, I'll take it.
Now, in order to understand how he's full of crap for the rest of what I'm gonna read, I think it's important for you to hear from federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York. They had a press conference today to explain in detail what the charges are, what he is being accused of. So let's listen to that, and I'll tell you what Bankman-Fried claims is going on.
First, we charge that from 2019 until earlier this year, Bankman-Fried and his co-conspirators stole billions of dollars from FTX customers. He used that money for his personal benefit, including to make personal investments and to cover expenses and debts of his hedge fund, Alameda Research. Secondly, and relatedly, we charge that Bankman-Fried lied to Alameda's lenders about the source of the money that he was using to pay those debts. Third, we charge that earlier this year, in the midst of the crypto crisis, Bankman-Fried lied to investors in FTX about the fact that he had sent billions of dollars in FTX customer money to Alameda. And fourth, we charge that Bankman-Fried violated federal campaign finance laws by causing tens of millions of dollars in illegal campaign contributions to be made to candidates and committees associated with both Democrats and Republicans.
Now, I'm sure Cenk has a lot to say about the campaign finance law as part of this, so I'll leave that to you in just a moment, but I have a few things to say. So understand that there are really two companies at play here, and Sam Bankman-Fried was behind both companies, okay? So you have the FTX exchange, the crypto exchange, where people are thinking, I'm gonna invest in FTX, I'm gonna invest in crypto, I don't wanna miss the boat on this is how I'm gonna get rich. So they're investing in the cryptocurrencies through FTX, right? Now, the second company in question is Alameda Research, which is a hedge fund. And so what Sam Bankman-Fried is being accused of is taking the depositor money from the FTX exchange and essentially gambling with it and losing it. And then there was a bank run, the equivalent of a bank run, which led to the eventual collapse of FTX, and he ended up filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Now, he seems to think that his biggest mistake was filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which I would venture to say was not his biggest mistake. So he says in the testimony, I know that it doesn't mean much to say that I am sorry. It doesn't. And so I'm dedicating as much of myself as I can to doing right by customers. When all is said and done, I'll judge myself primarily by one metric, whether I have eventually been able to make customers whole. If I fail our customers in this regard, I have failed myself. Now, he claims that he was pressured to sign the Chapter 11 bankruptcy documents and it was a big mistake. He says, quote, I deeply regret giving into pressure to sign forms that precipitated the Chapter 11 filing just a few days after FTX International became potentially insolvent. Among other things, the Chapter 11 team was thrust into a very difficult situation, and I worry that they were given very misleading information by a few members of the FTX US team when they joined. Now, he seems to think that FTX US was on the up and up, things were good, but I'm not buying that. So he says, to the best of my knowledge, FTX US has been and remains solvent and could pay off all of its customers in full tomorrow. Unfortunately, the Chapter 11 team has frozen the FTX US exchange, blocking customers access to the account information and funds. The customers who have lost assets are those who traded on the FTX international platforms, which do not accept US residents. Now, he might still have to testify. It's just that he's gonna have to testify in court. If the extradition goes as planned, he does have the ability to appeal that effort. But considering the fact that he has embarrassed rich, famous people, it is unlikely that the extradition appeal will work.
Yeah, look, let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. His biggest mistake was the haircut, let's be honest, okay? Or the lack of one. In fact, the good news about going to federal prison is he'll get the first haircut of his life. So now let's move into serious stuff. So look, his mindset's unbelievable, but it's because the rest of us don't live in Silicon Valley and didn't grow up in a situation where there's spectacular wealth everywhere and everyone abuses the system and thinks that it's perfectly normal and that robbery is just a normal way of doing business. So he seems genuinely shell-shocked. Like his whole perspective, he still doesn't get it. He kept talking about how he's gonna make it back. Dude, it's over. You're in Chapter 11, you're not getting control of the company again. You lost, look, the market cap on FTX at one point was either 72 or 82 billion dollars. Now it's gone. No, he seems like a kid, and he is, by the way, he's really young. So he grew up this arrogant and entitled, etc. So he seems like a kid going, look, if you just let me double down a couple more times, I can make it back. I can make it back, you just bet on black. And then when you win, you bet on it again, and then one more time, and then I got it back. Why won't they just let me gamble anymore? Well, that's not how it works. But to be fair to him, it is kind of how it works.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of the other crypto companies are doing as well. And he has said before in talking to reporters, and that's why he's being weirdly honest sometimes when he talks about how he bought off the Republicans and the Democrats. He said to the reporters, I don't get it, everybody does it. Yeah, I know, you're all crooks, you're the one who got caught.
Well, okay, so I want to talk about it in the context of traditional banks, right? Because when you're depositing money in a traditional bank, especially if it's a savings account, the reason why there are certain penalties or fees that they might charge you if you're taking too much money out of your savings account or the remaining balance is too low is because they want to gamble with your money. That's what they do with it, right?
Yeah.
But there are regulations to protect you. So obviously there's the FDIC insured situation where if the bank fails, your money will be protected under the federal government to a certain amount. I believe it's about $250,000 if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, and there are other regulations in place as well. For instance, the bank has to have some amount of liquidity in order to ensure, if they make bad investments with that money, they're able to not like screw over the depositor.
Yeah, so let me give you just a little bit more detail on that. So you'll have leverage limits, right? And they vary all the time. They depend on the jurisdiction. They depend on the laws that were passed. And a lot of times the government deregulates the banks, and then that leads to what? Disasters. Because the minute they're deregulated, they do the same thing Sam Bankman-Fried does. In fact, that's what they did in 2008, where they collapsed the whole global economy. So if Sam Bankman-Fried said, well, they did it in 2008, and those are all guys who you guys still revere, well, that's true. And what did they do? They would, and Paul Volcker tried to end this. It was called the Volcker Rule, where they would end proprietary trading, where the bank takes your money on one side, your deposits, and then uses it to gamble on the other side. And the government had then deregulated so much that they didn't even have leverage limits, so they could take almost unlimited risk. And since it's your money, they have an incentive to take more risk, because the more risk they take, the more profit they get. But if they lose the money, who cares? It's your money anyway. Right? It's not their money.
What's the big deal, huh? we provided a place for you to put your money, and then we lost it. What's the big deal?
And that's basically what they said in 2008.
Yeah.
And all of the very, very corrupt politicians, definitely both Republicans and Democrats, said, oh yeah, they're right. And these are the giants of the world, and they're the greatest people on earth. And let's bail them out with your money again, this time to your taxpayer money. And so they went back to it. But they put in some small changes. So Dodd-Frank was trumpeted as the greatest, most epic, historic financial reform bill ever, because that's corporate media. They're doing the cover-up, right? In reality, it was so weak that Volcker wanted to take his name off of the bill. He's like, you didn't ban proprietary trading at all, so please stop lying as if I support this bill. Paul Volcker used to be a very conservative head of the Federal Reserve. Now he's considered, or was considered, a progressive, right? He didn't change his positions at all. The country has become so deeply corrupt that Volcker's like, this is absurd. This isn't capitalism. You guys are just robbing the place.
Exactly.
Right? And so that's what Sam Bankman-Fried was doing, but with no regulations.
With no regulations.
At the crypto side. So when you have no regulations, it's not just him. I would be shocked if everyone in crypto wasn't doing the same exact trick and robbing you absolutely blind.
And before we forget, listen, the campaign finance part of this I think is fascinating. I can't wait to learn more. And as we had shared with you last week, while it was well known that Sam Bankman-Fried was pumping a lot of money into the campaign coffers of corporate Democrats, he admitted on the record that he donated the same amount to Republicans, but did so through dark money donations. And one of the other things that he confessed to was that while he made public statements about his openness to regulations of cryptocurrency, it was all BS, it was all publicity. He even said F regulations, F regulators. He doesn't want regulations, then he's not able to rob the depositors and gamble with their money. But anyway, we'll learn more through this investigation and the ongoing investigation into this. So I can't wait to find out what else he was up to. But Cenk, the financial stuff, campaign stuff.
So look, I don't even know what they're gonna charge him with on that front. And I say that because I think that's the one thing that I thought he did that was, to be honest with you guys, perfectly legal. Now, is it moral? No, of course not. No, but we did legalize bribery. You can't give to the politicians directly and have them put it in their pocket, but you almost kind of can, because you can give it to their campaigns, and their campaigns can spend it on their own properties like Trump did. They could funnel it to themselves in 18 different ways. But you could certainly bribe them in terms of campaign contributions. You give unlimited amount, you'd give it through dark PACs, you could give it through other PACs. And that's what he did, and he was brazen about it. But if what he did is illegal, that's great news, because then you should go arrest Democratic Majority for Israel, who was the lobbyists that were in the same exact campaigns as he was, on the same exact side. You can go arrest the Koch brothers, you can go arrest all of these corporations that do the same things that he does. And so look, if by the way, while you're at it, why don't you go arrest both the Republicans and the Democrats that he gave the money to, if that's illegal? But I guarantee you at some point they're gonna drop that portion of the charges, because they're gonna realize, oh, right, of course, our bad, bribery's totally legal. And what he did was what every lobbyist and every company does, because our politicians are crooks. Here, I'll give you one example. Chantel Brown took money from him through a super PAC, directed through so that it doesn't go straight to her, right? But that was in essence to win her election, which she did. They took millions of dollars, They spent it against Nina Turner, who's now our host on Boss, and they bought the election. He bought Chantel Brown's votes. You think Chantel Brown didn't promise to vote with Sam Bankman-Fried? That he was like, oh, I'll just trust her. No, he knew Nina Turner is honest, and she has to be defeated because she's a progressive who would actually protect consumers. Chantel Brown is deeply dishonest and will make sure to protect me instead of consumers. So find every Democrat, that, and by the way, a Republican if you can, that he gave money to, and you'll find a crook.
Well, we're gonna take a brief break. When we come back, we've got more news for you, including we should probably talk about Donald Trump's no good, very bad day. Come right back.
All right, back on TYT. First of all, Turks and Jerks is coming up. Okay, that's at the end of the year. We picked the most heroic person and the worst person. The jerk is always harder because there's like a million of them. I wish that the world wasn't that way, but it is. Anyway, we want to know your suggestions. So how are you going to tell us your suggestions? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to go post it in the YouTube community page and leave your nomination in the comments, okay? You're going to leave the nomination in the comments in the YouTube community page. We're going to sift through those. And then we're gonna narrow the field, and then we'll do Turks and Jerks at the end of the year. You guys are awesome for participating. Okay, now speaking of awesome, get a load of what I Do Declare did in the member section. So you guys heard me just a little bit ago give him a $100 Blue Apron gift card. He wrote back in, Cenk, you already gave me a $100 gift card this week. Can I gift it to another member? Possibly could buy some Costco stock.
I mean,
so you're an American hero. I mean, you're a double American hero. So yes, we'll figure out a way that you can do that, and we love you for it. And somebody's gonna get $100 because of a wonderful person who's a Young Turks member.
By the way, for those of you who have been enjoying your Blue Apron meals and tweeting to me about it, thank you. I always appreciate positive tweets, which happen rarely. But I got a tweet yesterday from someone who decided to try the pizza, and she loved it. He loved it. It was a man, actually. Apologies.
Something to do with fennel, I hear.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I had the fennel pizza too.
That's unbelievable.
It was delicious.
Except I saw your tweet. Okay.
Yeah, you did. That's
all right. Kabuki Dragon, formerly Maui Greg writes in, nothing sums up the US economic system more than a company being punished by Wall Street for not trying to extract every last penny from the consumers. 100% correct. That is the picture of the American economy and government as we speak today. Okay, and I say the government because the government lets them do it. All right, now I'm going to super chat. Here we go. Kurt Million writes in, looking like a boss though, wearing head to toe Costco.
Oh my God. By the way, Costco sells hoodies that just have the Kirkland logo on it.
Oh yeah.
My brother has one, and I'm actually a little jealous.
Like, a little jelly.
I want
hey,
it.
You know, Kurt, you just made us laugh. $100 if you're a member. Okay, rewards at tyt.com, but you got to be a member, and we verify. Okay, give a $5 super chat, get back 100. That's a pretty good deal. Go get yourself more Kirkland material. All right, LJ Wombology writes in, I'm here for the impressions, also for the clitorides. What up? Nicolette Herades writes in, no, it's clitorati. Lady Luck writes in, been a member for over 2 years, and this is somehow only my third time watching live. I watch every day though. Looking forward to a good show with Mr. Jamaica and the Salt Dragon. There you go, Lady Luck. Okay, but the buttering me up ain't gonna get you $100. Okay, but I love you for it. Thank you, I appreciate it, okay? Ted Cruz Wedgie Dragon says, if you ever seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life, we definitely live in Pottersville, where everything the movie warns against, yet people scream, I love you to billionaires like Musk. It's so true, you're totally right. I'm gonna start calling America Pottersville. All right, we'll be back. back on TYT, Cenk Ugrana Kasparian, and also Darth Nails. They just became a member by hitting that beautiful join button underneath the video.
So beautiful. It's a big, beautiful button.
Big, beautiful button.
The biggest button. You won't believe it. The biggest button you've ever seen.
Trust me, we've got no problems with the button. Trust me, okay? We also have no problems with the URL tyt.com/join. And KevZ247 is an American hero. Gifted 5 Young Turks memberships on YouTube. You guys are the best. Casper.
Let's do it.
I think that there has that a portal, a demonic portal, opened above the White House around the time that the Bidens moved in.
That's Roger Stone, former President Donald Trump's top advisors, one of his top advisors, and he is insane. In fact, listen to what he has to say next.
This was brought to my attention by a Christian who lives in North Florida, who sent me a bunch of photographs and a bunch of documents, and also some notations in the Bible about portals. And I was like, okay, sure. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I mean, you should start out by being skeptical.
I was
saying
extremely skeptical.
That sounds insane to me.
You know, it does sound insane because it is insane. And maybe Trump getting advice from Roger Stone, a literal lunatic, wasn't the right way to go, considering he seems to be sliding down the polls significantly. It's according to a new poll that was done by Suffolk University. We'll get to those details in just a moment. But Cenk, I know you have a lot to say about Roger Stone and his concerns about the demonic portal.
Wow, I mean, obviously, who isn't concerned about it? I've been hearing buzzing in the streets. You guys hear about the portals?
It does keep people up at night, definitely.
Okay. So what's hilarious is that guy, the host that was interviewing him, he sounded like a reasonable guy, right? He's skeptical, and I listened to the whole thing. Later in the interview, he's like, look, I'm skeptical about the demonic portals. I believe mainly in curses. I was like, okay, that took a turn.
He's like Jake Tapper's shockingly even more evil doppelganger.
So I mean, they had this hilarious conversation about but it's not so funny because Roger Stone is I don't know if he's trolling the right wing or if he actually believes it. It's always hard to tell. But he's tapping into things that folks are taught that are, of course, nowhere near true. He said, what? Well, I mean, we all know Satan is real, and that means demons are real.
Yeah, you exist.
And well, that's true. If anybody would know, it would be Roger Stone. I mean, if anybody came out of a demonic portal, okay, so maybe I withdraw a little bit of my skepticism here. But anyways, and he goes, and you know demons exist, and you know the demons are inside people, so they gotta come from somewhere, so they gotta come from a portal. I guarantee you, like 98% of Republicans listening were like, oh yeah, oh my God, right? And so it's apparently, of course, it's over the White House, of course. Of course, the dangerous part of that is that they then start to think that real people are possessed by demons.
Sometimes.
Yeah, well.
Sometimes you could be real naughty.
Oh, well, that's a different thing. Now we're having fun portal conversations, okay? Not the other kind. Anyway, but seriously.
What are you gonna do with this? What are you gonna do with this guy, right? Like, what, you're supposed to take these comments seriously? And like, we're supposed to have a genuine exchange about this lunacy? Okay.
Well, what do you think comes out of a demonic portal? I mean, but these are the guys who we're debating with. That is one of Trump's top advisors. One of his top advisors, a bunch of lunatics ran the country. They might run it again. On the other hand, they might not, Anna.
They might not, they might not. Now, why do we say that? Let's go back to what I mentioned earlier, the poll. Now, this is a USA Today Suffolk University poll, and they found that by a 2-to-1 margin, 2-to-1, GOP and GOP leaning voters now say they want Trump's policies, but a different standard bearer to carry them. While 31% want the former president to run, 61% prefer some other Republican nominee. Gee, I wonder who that could be, who would continue the policies Trump has pursued. So they love the sin, hate the sinner in this case, right?
Oh, that's such a great way of putting it.
Yeah, so
$100 gift card, no, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so look, I've always been skeptical about this narrative without really seeing any data to back it up, because I definitely can see the Republican establishment trying to move away or move on from Donald Trump. In fact, in the next video compilation we show you, you'll see some pretty big name figures voicing how they're looking to move on while still maintaining the policies. But this is the first time that I see a poll that has a gap wide enough to show that Trump is losing favorability among the voters. Now, before I get to those details, let's watch the video I was referring to.
People want us to get back to the policies of the Trump-Pence administration.
I certainly would not turn my back on President Trump, but with that, I love Governor Ron DeSantis. He is America's governor, and he has these same policies.
I think America longs to go back to the policies that were working for the American people, but I think it's time for new leadership.
Maybe it's time to turn the page if we can get someone who has all Trump's policies, who's not Trump.
Turn the page.
There you go. All right, we're gonna give you more devastating numbers in a second. But this is the first time that I'm actually seeing hope that we might begin to enter the end of the Trump era.
Well, okay, so I sense your optimism. Where
and you'd like to squash it.
Of course, yes.
Okay, yes.
You have an unlimited supply of that optimism.
And we need to cut that crap out, right?
I'm here to stop that party attitude.
Yeah.
Listen, Trump is a symptom of everything that's wrong in the country. So while I hear you, there is a positive aspect of no longer having to deal with a man who's so shameless that he would destroy our democracy just to remain in power. All of those issues that have led to that symptom still exist, right? And I'm concerned about that.
No, what a shocking turn of events. Let me make a case that it's not entirely true. So I think that it appeared that, first of all, let's put it this way. Trump brought two things to the table. He brought hate and madness, like crazy, crazy stuff. Let's inject bleach into us to cure COVID. Wind causes cancer. Elections don't mean anything. The Constitution should be ripped up. Just total madness, right? He thought about nuking a hurricane. So what I was worried about is that the Republicans loved both of those things, the hate and the madness. But now it looks like they're a little tired of the madness. So Anna, you're 100% right that they still want the hate. So the core of the problem still exists, right? And they're just gonna transfer that onto DeSantis. And what the distinction that Anna's making is so important, because if you watch mainstream media, they like to pretend that Trump is the only problem, right? And once Trump is gone, the fever is going to break and the Republicans are gonna go back to being wonderful moderates who are gonna give, do these great bipartisan deals. No, none of that is true. Anna's absolutely right about that. But here's a rejection, as we saw in the midterms, of the madness, even within the Republican Party. And that is encouraging. That is encouraging.
For now, okay, so for now. I don't know how this is gonna play out as we get closer to the 2024 presidential election, but I'll give you the rest of the details regarding this poll, because the numbers are pretty significant. So 56% to 33% of Republicans and those inclined to vote Republicans say they prefer DeSantis over Trump.
That's a big number, man. Look, all the articles were unclear as to whether that's in the 2/3 that are already don't want him to run, or overall. I think it's in the 2/3 that don't want him to run, but it's still a big, big lead for DeSantis with 2/3 of Republican voters at least. So that is a sea change.
So in July, 60% of Republicans wanted Trump to run again. But by the time we hit October, that number had already dipped to 56%. Now it's fallen to 47%.
That's real, brothers and sisters.
Yes, it is real. And look, I think part of it, actually a big part of it, is the voters are exhausted from the endless investigations and potential criminality. They just want to get those policies accomplished. And it's difficult to accomplish those policies, as much as I obviously don't want them and don't agree with them. It's difficult for them to get what they want when the leader of the party is constantly embroiled with endless investigations.
Partly, I think that they might be exhausted from that, but the main thing that they're concerned about is they're now worried that he's a loser.
Well, he is.
And so that's great news. And by the way, that could, be an argument against what I was just telling you. Maybe they still like the madness, but they're like, we are not gonna be able to get that hate and madness into the White House and into power if it's in the form of Donald Trump, because he's such a goddamn loser. And by the way, guys, we did 100 loser Donald segments before the 2016 election because we sensed that was his #1 weakness, and we were right. So here he is, Republicans are turning on him, and now his favorability has gone down even from 75 to 64. Remember in 2020, just a couple of years ago, 93% of Republicans voted for him. Almost no one broke from him. Now it's down to 64%. He's in actual trouble. And this is a real poll. This isn't what, in the beginning, after the midterms, the Republican establishment was super mad at him. And they're like, oh, we have a poll from republicanestablishment.com. And it says you do not like Trump. And those were horse crap, and we told you about it. Suffolk's a real polling organization. USA Today is a real paper. So he is, for the first time, in real trouble because they think he can't beat the Democrats. And by the way, they're right. This is the killer last stat. Biden's lead over Trump is now 7.8 points, almost 8 points. But Biden loses to DeSantis by 4 points. That is a giant 12-point difference. And that means either the Republicans have power or they don't have power. And they want to own those libs. And in order to own the libs, you need to have power. So that's why they're leaning towards DeSantis, because they're finally beginning to realize Trump is a loser. All right.
Well, whenever I think of Ron DeSantis and governors like him, I think of book bans. So why don't we do that? Let's talk about book bans.
No, let's do it.
Yeah. Imagine being so obsessed with banning books, you move from your longtime home in New York to travel all the way to Florida, specifically to ban books in an area you don't even live in. Well, that's what one man did, Bruce Friedman, and he succeeded in banning a lot of books, dozens of them, and he definitely wants to ban more. So this year, at least 102 books have been banned in Clay County, Florida. They were removed from school libraries thanks in large part to this single conservative activist. I want you to pay close attention to his quotes, because dude's got issues.
Of course.
So, but I want to know if you get what I mean. So let me just get through the details. Okay, all right. So he's the president and founder of the Florida chapter of No Left Turn. It's a right-wing educational group that was founded by Yaron Fishbein. Now, public schools are starting to resemble re-education camps, and our cities have turned into killing fields.
Wow.
The group wrote on Facebook. It's beginning to feel like Pol Pot's Cambodia. Fishbein
Is that what
says,
it's feeling like? I thought for sure he's going to end the sentence with, it's beginning to feel a lot like Christmas. And he's like, no, Pope Paul. That's what it's looking at. Really? They're like, oh, we've got these re-education camps now. They're now teaching the kids that 2 + 2 actually equals 4. Okay, all right, if you say so.
I feel like people who make statements like that should be sentenced to live in a country for 1 month that is similar to what they're describing.
Oh, I know, right? Like, so he's in Florida, he's having great Cuban food, he's having the time of his
he's
life.
having a cafecito, pastelito, he's having a great time. He's like, oh, it's a killing field.
It's sunny outside, everything's great. Send him to North Korea for 1 month, right? And you got worms inside your intestines and stuff, and you haven't eaten, you haven't seen toilet paper in a month, and then he'll be like, please send me to a re-education camp in Florida.
Totally, 100%, okay. So it seems that Bruce is equally as insane as the group's founder, by the way. And Bruce is the guy who traveled from New York to Florida specifically to ban books. Now, he gained some notoriety when he went to a school board meeting and then proceeded to read from a book that described a rape scene. The school board cut his mic for obvious reasons. How creepy is that? He also told Fox News that he wants his 15-year-old son to be in the public education system and come home unharmed. He's concerned his 15-year-old son is being unharmed. So obviously the natural, strategy to prevent the harm of his 15-year-old son is to ban books that he had no idea about in the school libraries while the internet is at his fingertips.
And you took the words right out of my mouth. Because look, guys, it's a serious story because they're trying to ironically shut down speech from the guys who claim that they're in favor of speech. They're trying to cancel books from the guys who claim they're in favor of, they're against cancel culture, right? But it's also funny because how hilariously irrelevant. I wish my kids were going to the library and like, oh, well, let me look through the books and oh, I found one that's interesting, right?
They're doing us a huge favor because they're making reading cool again.
I know, they're making it look like, oh, if you go to the library, you might find something really
so
hot,
naughty,
like,
so taboo. I'm reading a book.
Like all of a sudden 15-year-olds are like, oh, dude, have you seen the library? Which a 50-year-old hasn't said in like 2 decades.
No, but what's also amazing is he's specifically targeting books that don't have pornographic material in them. They don't like, okay, I'm gonna give you examples in just a moment, but.
Yeah, okay, look, Anna, that's the thing. I mean, back to the internet for 1 second. There's 2 girls kissing. Have you seen the internet, Bruce?
No, don't.
Have you seen it?
Can you imagine? Oh my God, he's laying in the corner in fetal position, just like rocking back and forth. Oh my God, the internet. The internet. They do more than kissing on the internet.
All they do, trust me, Bruce.
Okay, all right, so let's get to the details. Now, during a November 28th meeting of the Florida Department of Education Library Media Working Group, he said that he had compiled a list of over 3,600 titles he doesn't approve of. Let's watch.
Ooh.
I have a list of over 3,600 titles that I believe have concerning content. Our libraries have more than a little poison in them. Think of it like a recipe for a happy, well-developed child. How much poison is it okay to give them? Whether it's porn, critical race theory, social emotional learning, fluid gender, pick your poison. None of it is okay for my boy. I expect this team and all like it to clean up this mess, or like I'm doing locally, we'll take them down 1 book at a time. I will perform 3,600 challenges and overwhelm your awful, awful procedures and policies.
I'm coming for your books, okay? All right, I got over 3,600 titles. I'm coming for your books. You better tidy up that library. I got my eyes on you. All right, so one of the books. We're gonna keep going.
No, sorry, go.
No, because I got to give you the example.
No, she's got to.
So he wants to ban and has succeeded in banning The Girl from the Sea, which is an award-winning novel, okay? It's about a 15-year-old girl who develops romantic feelings for another girl. Now, the 2 girls hold hands at one point, and as you can see from the image, they share a kiss, but there's no sex, no swearing, no nudity. Unacceptable for him, okay? So in an interview with Popular Information, Friedman described The Girl from the Sea as a book for okay, this is what I mean. Slightly post-pubescent little lesbians, Friedman says. He objects to the book being available in Clay County libraries because students are not in school to learn about how to be better lesbians. The book is not about being a better lesbian, you weirdo creep. Like,
you could be a worse lesbian if you want, it doesn't matter. Okay, you could be a total middle lesbian, like a mid-lesbian.
Bad lesbian,
Okay, yeah, and how, is a bad lesbian good or bad? Because like, you're a bad lesbian. Could be like really positive, I don't know which way he's going with that.
He's worried about his 15-year-old son reading a book about lesbians. Are you worried your son might be a lesbian after reading the book? Like, I don't get it. Okay, let me continue. The book exposes students to a land of girls making out with great illustrations.
With great illustrations, because he took time on that one.
No, but seriously, like this is what I'm talking about, man. This guy's thinking about things that he's feeling real guilty about. And that's why he's acting out the way he is. In my opinion, that's my analysis on this. According to Friedman, students should not be focused on kissing or petting or anything else in that general territory.
No, and 15-year-olds, by the way, are not. They never thought about it until the librarians put it in their heads.
Those naughty librarians, I mean, and all those books.
Yeah, the librarians were like, hey, look, I know you 15-year-old boys are not at all interested in sex, but psst, 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 have you heard about lesbians?
Okay, get a load of this next quote. Friedman said he is comfortable with gay people.
Oh, of course he is.
And quote, recognizes that they exist, but this is the part I'm talking about.
Is he not merciful?
Friedman said he lived for years in New York City, and on very rare occasions, I would meet a sexually aggressive homosexual person.
No, good for you, brother.
And have words with them.
That's what we're calling it these days.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. Listen, stop hating yourself. It's gonna be okay. Instead of lashing out and banning books, go get therapy, okay?
But that was like accidentally like the most sexual thing I've read all week.
No, but who describes people that way?
Okay.
Who describes people that way?
I met an aggressively homosexual man and we exchanged words.
No, he said,
Did you?
He said, quote, verbatim, I would meet a sexually aggressive homosexual person and have words with them.
Okay.
Listen, like again.
How did you know they were sexually aggressive?
How did you know? How did you know?
I mean, that seems awfully specific knowledge that you would only get under certain circumstances that you might not get from exchanging words.
But listen, this guy has succeeded in getting these books banned, right? Not every book, some of the books, for instance, there was one book that had no nudity, no sexual content, nothing. It was a book about, a main character named Justice who was experiencing discrimination because the character was black. There was nothing explicit in that book whatsoever. He even acknowledged it, but he doesn't like the fact that the book deals with racial discrimination because it makes him uncomfortable. So he doesn't think anyone else in that school district should be able to read that book.
But think about how mental that is. Okay, so like the whole gay, not gay thing, I know religious folks got brought up in wrong kind of brainwashing. Oh, it's so evil. Oh my God, God's so wrong. He shouldn't have created you that way. Okay, so that's awful, totally wrong. But I understand where it comes from. This, on the other hand, he's like, it's a book about a black kid who's an Ivy League student who has some racial profiling issues. Like seriously, the most normal thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, and the book is Dear Martin: The Story of an Ivy League Bound African, and it's a story about an Ivy League bound African American student. So Dear Martin is the name of the book.
And so he's like, well, I don't like it. I don't know if he doesn't like that the kid wound up in the Ivy League in the book. By the way, it's not a real story, or that he doesn't like that he was racially profiled, or he doesn't like that he's noting that he got racially profiled. In other words, Bruce doesn't like black people talking about racism, okay? And he wants to shut them up because he thinks he rules the world. He thinks he's Bruce Almighty, right?
So he didn't succeed with getting that book banned, thankfully. I mean, at least there's some line here because again, no explicit material whatsoever. And they have to provide a reason for why they're trying to get a book banned, right? Like you can't show up and be like, I read the Da Vinci Code and I'm really mad I spent $15 on it and didn't enjoy it. So I'd like you to ban it, please. Okay, kind sir, do that today. Like where's the line?
Yeah, well, see on that particular book, the Dear Martin one, he can't say I don't like black people, so I want you to ban the book. So he has to say critical race theory.
No, he says it promotes.
Critical race theory how, right? No, I don't have to explain it. I just use this catchword that Fox News taught me, and then I get to hate black people and it's okay.
Exactly, so he says it promotes Black Lives Matter and the notion of microaggressions, and he doesn't like it, so.
I don't like that it promotes black people living longer. I mean, it's absurd, okay,
yeah.
So.
And by the way, I'm just gonna fast forward to the final graphic here, because going back to what I referenced earlier, how his quotes seem to reveal something that he doesn't mean to reveal about himself. So Friedman cites the Parental Rights Act, AKA Don't Say Gay law, to justify his objections to these books. And he says this: you don't want little children questioning their budding little bodies. Just stop talking. It's creepy. I just don't. I don't know. There's something strange about the way he talks about young people, the way he talks about gay people, the way he talks about everything. There's something going on with this guy, and I think it is insane that places like Florida, certain districts in Florida, have created a system in which people who might have some serious issues are able to prevent students from accessing books that have nothing wrong with them whatsoever.
Yeah, look, this guy got dozens of books banned and then finally they realized, oh, we're just giving in to a lunatic and maybe we should double check. And because you know why? Even, by the way, Don't Say Gay doesn't apply to libraries, he's wrong about that. But everybody in Florida that's involved in education is so nervous because that bill allows you to sue them directly. So the librarians were like, I don't know, just ban them all. Because I don't want to be sued for $10,000, or I don't want to have a bunch of people sue me for $10,000 at a time. I mean, they're gonna bankrupt me, they're gonna take my home, they're gonna ruin my life because there was a perfectly normal book about a black kid who was successful. I don't know, I guess ban it because of the goddamn bill, because it's so hateful. That's Ron DeSantis. So Bruce guy is a loon and he's pathetic and all that stuff, right? But he's not the heart of the problem. The heart of the problem is Ron DeSantis, who passed this bill in the first place.
Yeah, the
that
politicians.
encouraged lunatics like this to go and try to cancel all the books in the world.
The politicians who manufacture culture wars in order to engage in their political campaigning and distract you from the fact that they're actually pro-corporate and assist corporations in robbing you blind. That's what's really fueling this. And it enables the lunatics like Friedman to do what they do. And I leave you with this, okay? He's on a warpath. He even says that if anyone gets in his way, he has vowed to run over them like a dead body. Another quote of his, by the way. And don't lose all hope, though. Luckily, there are still some reasonable humans in Florida, like this angry mom who spoke at the same meeting after Friedman and another woman from his posse, did their thing. Her name's Michelle. Let's watch.
These women don't get to decide how to raise everybody else's children. And I know that you're not only getting emails from No Left Turn in Education or Moms for Liberty, because I know that there's a whole hell of a lot of more sane women out there, parents, moms, and dads, who don't believe that our children need to be policed like this. I find it disgusting the way that these people keep focusing on pornography. Maybe they have a problem and not everybody else. Also, Michelle, CRT is not an issue here. So get off that high horse. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was excellent. And I'm glad that there are others picking up on what I picked up on when it comes to guys like Friedman.
100%.
All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we will discuss Republican traitors to this country. Don't miss it.
You know what the progressive movement needs? It needs a little energy, a little pizzazz, maybe a little caffeine. Oh, coffee. But what if it was Too Strong Coffee? Yes, new, toostrongcoffee.com/TYT. Look, this helps progressive causes. It's also organic and fair trade, so you've got peace of mind that it was done right, and it happens to taste great. So check it out right now at toostrongcoffee.com/TYT.
That's 300 million, that's a pretty good number, Well, that's the size of the US population. You know what our next target is? The size of the entire world.
We just crossed 5 billion views on YouTube.
I mean, imagine 10 years ago thinking one day.
We looked at you like, are you nuts?
Young Turks has just passed another milestone, 20 billion views.
Damn.
All right, lots of comments. You guys are the best.
I'm gonna read a few comments from our members.
Mr. Methuselah says on YouTube, super chat, thanks for all the important work you do for TYT for the movement.
Do you know who had the first super chat when I got back from vacation? You won't be surprised to find out. Billy B. Taylor. What do you know? Billy says, rejoice, for Dragon Daddy has returned.
This question sent to us by Izzy Sanchez Jr. Is it me or is Meghan McCain talking as fast as Ben Shapiro? Is that the way the right tries to look smart and intellectual? Well, yes.
Michael Nathan writes it on Twitter. Did Anna choose Cenk's outfit today? I'm sure it wasn't Cenk himself. Man Bun Jenkins Skinny Jeans says, so now Anna has pointed out, okay, that's his handle.
T. Joyce, 1971, saying Donald Trump is good at pulling out of things, NAFTA, the Iran deal, NATO. It's just too bad Fred Trump didn't.
All right, let me do a little quick plug here. It's not even a plug, I'm bragging, okay? I'm bragging, watch me. We have a channel on YouTube, a whole channel devoted just to the Young Turks. It's badass, right? Wow, man. I can see the void.
You guys are rock stars.
Unbelievable. Senator Sanders, welcome to Rebel Headquarters.
Man, you guys are amazing. We gave you what you wanted.
Okay. Speaking of shirts.
I have a surprise.
You reached a lot of people. You are the Young Turks. And we have spread that progressive message wide and far. Let's keep it going.
Here's what we do. We go beyond the headline. We are willing to engage in transparent conversations with those who do not think like me. We also make sure that you know what's happening not only nationally, but in your local area. Make sure you tune in to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, Monday through Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time.
Cool news, shoptyt.com now has books. There's a whole bunch of books there. You're gonna be shocked to find out that they're largely progressive. Of course! Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People, is there. It's a fantastic story from Jesse Jackson to Bernie Sanders to AOC that explains the progressive movement probably better than any book I've ever read. Speaking of awesome books, my dad's got a book out called The Original Young Turk, where he goes from the poorest olive farmer you ever met in your life to living the American dream.
I don't have teleprompters here, folks. I don't need teleprompters. It's called like up here, and it's called memory, and it's called other things.
All right, back on CYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Also, Elizabeth. Elizabeth just joined. You're awesome, Elizabeth. Great to have you with us. Anna.
Well, we've got some updates on January 6th and some of the communications that members of Congress were having with Trump's chief of staff. Newly exposed text messages between Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and dozens of members of Congress, namely Republicans, indicate that there was a lot more planning going on behind the scenes when it came to overturning the results of the 2020 presidential election. Now, Trump still refuses to accept that he lost fair and square. And during this period, it was clear that dozens of Republican lawmakers were in his camp. So Turning Point's memo was able to obtain these text message exchanges. And here's what we know. The texts were rife with links to far-right websites, questionable legal theories, violent rhetoric, and advocacy for authoritarian power grabs. The clearest example actually came in the form of this exchange between Representative Ralph Norman, who literally advocated to Trump to use violent military action to get what he wants. So 3 days before Joe Biden was set to be inaugurated into office, Norman texted this to Mark Meadows. Let's take a look. Mark, in seeing what's happening so quickly and reading about the Dominion lawsuits attempting to stop any meaningful investigation, we are at a point of no return in saving our republic. Our last hope is invoking martial law.
Insisted upon it. So this guy's look, whether you could legally prosecute him as someone who committed treason against the United States is a different question, okay? And no, I don't mean it in the way that the right wingers do. Oh, treason means you execute him in the streets. No. Just legal process, politics, normal, sane things, right? But as a matter of ideology, he is a traitor to America. He is. So again, don't do anything physical. We're not right wingers. We're going to defeat him politically, right? But he's saying, I don't believe in democracy. And if Trump lost, I don't care. Just use the military and turn this into a junta, a dictatorship, right? And we want you to run it. So, I mean, these Republicans, they never loved this country. They never liked the idea of America at all. They just want power. They don't want democracy.
Just want to apologize to Talking Points memo for doing them real dirty by calling them Turning Points memo.
Oh, yeah.
My bad, that was me misspeaking. I did not intend to do that. I guess force of habit, since Turning Point USA is in the news quite often. But anyway, moving on, just want to make that clarification. Now, Talking Points memo reached out to Congressman Norman, hoping that he would provide a statement about this. Reached via cell phone on Monday morning, Norman asked TPM for a chance to review his messages before commenting. It's been 2 years, he said. Send that text to me and I'll take a look at it. Well, they did, and they did not receive any further response from the congressman, which is the least surprising thing in the world because he didn't want to address it. He knows. You think he'd forget that he wanted Trump to declare martial law?
Yeah, or even if you believe that, he got the message, he looked at it and went, oops, that didn't age well. So when they're like, okay, well then, now you got the text message, give us a comment. He's like, no.
So
runs away.
Let me be clear, Norman is not the only person that Mark Meadows was exchanging text messages with on the topic of overturning the election, okay? There were 34 Republican members of Congress involved in these exchanges, in these communications, right? And let's go to some more info here. So the members who messaged Meadows about challenging the election and shared conspiracy theories included some notable Republicans, some that we already knew about, others maybe you didn't know about. So Ted Cruz, Jim Jordan, you have Jody Hice, Paul Gosar, Louis Gohmert, and my personal favorite, Mo Brooks. I love that Mo Brooks has been implicated in all of this, considering he was a Trump loyalist until he and Trump had a pretty embarrassing falling out. And now Mo Brooks is no longer in Congress as a result of Trump giving him the middle finger and refusing to endorse him. But nonetheless, I just love all of it. It's so good, it's so delicious. Now, in a message to Meadows on December 10th of 2020, Trump campaign advisor Jason Miller described Mo Brooks as the ringleader of the effort to block the electoral certification. So here's a screenshot of that text message exchange. And I know that the typing there is probably small for you to read, so I'll read it for you. FYI, so I asked Ali Pardo from our press shop to get in touch with Representative Mo Brooks' office since he seems to be the ringleader on the January 6th deal. They say they will have as many as 50 members on board for January 6th, but we won't have a list of names until Sunday or Monday. This may not surprise you, but no one from the legal team has made contact with them at all. They request examples of fraud. No, I mean, they want those pesky pieces of evidence, but God, so annoying. Anyway, but let me continue. They request examples of fraud, numbers, names, whatever supporting evidence can be provided. We've now supplied that. No, they didn't. There was no evidence. But our legal squad isn't exactly buttoned up. I bring this up for a simple reason. If we're hoping to move real numbers on the 6th, I think we need to quickly start mobilizing our real deal allies. I'm ready to go. I have bodies to help. We'll follow your lead. And Mark Meadows responds, thanks, Jason. You are the best. I will bring it up with the President of the United States, and I plan to meet with them on Saturday.
Yep. Yeah, look, it's that simple. This is the butt end of the Republican Party. It's not to absolve the other Republicans who tons of them voted with Trump on decertifying the votes. They ran for re-election. So it totally did whatever Trump wanted to do. So the entirety of the Republican Party is guilty. But these guys here that are the most extreme, that were calling for martial law and to literally destroy America as we know it, are absolute traitors. And so you should tell them that. And I don't mean, again, never anything physical, but then social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, writing into their office, calling in like the old days, say, oh, Ralph Norman, it turns out, especially if you live in their district, hey, it turns out you're a traitor, and I would like a congressman who loves America instead of hates it. So I don't want a dictator, and apparently you do. So can you, one, leave Congress immediately because you don't believe in this country, so you shouldn't represent us if you don't believe in democracy. And number two, there's a lot of dictatorships in the world. Go pick one. Saudi Arabia, North Korea, go live under one. See how you like it then.
All right, there's a lot more detail. From what I've seen so far, TPM has done a multi-part series on this, so I just want to give them credit for their reporting. It is lengthy, so check that out if you want to learn more. But it is not surprising to me that there were literally dozens of Republican members of Congress who were conspiring to overturn the results of our democratic process, our election. They do everything they can to rig these elections to their advantage. And even when they lose, after rigging it to their advantage, they try to find ways to overturn the results. It's disgusting. I don't know if they're going to face criminal charges. I think they should. I mean, I don't get it, because you mentioned earlier, Cenk, whether or not they're going to face charges of treason is a question. Like, we don't know if that's going to happen. You don't know if it's even possible, but why not?
Well, I mean, first of all, look, has Trump been charged on anything? And we all know that he's committed dozens of crimes.
He's not going to be charged, but members of Congress have in the past for other crimes, right?
Right, but almost always it's because what they steal from other rich people.
That's a good point.
Like, that's almost the only crime that there's ever any punishment for among the elites. So I would be shocked. I mean, certainly no Republican is going to punish them. Most of the Republicans agree with them, right? The Republican politicians. And they just didn't think that they could get away with it. If they thought they can get away with it, the entire Republican Party would vote for a dictatorship today, right now. Not all the voters would, but the politicians instantly. Only thing they care about is power. So, but if the Democrats are in charge, well, they were in charge. Okay, they say, oh, well, golly gee, it took us forever to find this thing. I know, you always slow roll it, right? But let's say they had a supermajority. Do you think they do anything about Ralph Norman and Marjorie Taylor Greene and everybody that participated in this? No, I don't think they do anything at all. They're Democrats, they're generally cowards. The prosecutors are so afraid of losing. They'll only charge regular people that were in the riots. They won't charge people like Navarro, who's going around bragging that he did the fake elector plot, which is the coup itself. So no, they're definitely gonna get away with it. That's why I asked you to use democracy to see if you could, drive them out politically and rhetorically, et cetera. Last thing's about Marjorie Taylor Greene. So she also asked for martial law. This Ralph Norman, we keep emphasizing because he said you should do it, whereas she posed it as like, well, I hear it's one of the options and we should really consider it, okay? We should consider rolling in the tanks and ending our democracy. That's who she is. So when you see her talking about how she loves America, what she actually means is, I love racist white people being in charge of everyone else. The rest of America, take it or leave it. The democracy part, she hates. So if she could do a military dictatorship where racist white people like her ruled all of us like they used to in the past, she would do it in a flat second. That's what she and a lot of other right-wingers mean when they say the word America. Not the actual country, and certainly not our ideas or our Constitution.
During the break, I'm gonna decide whether or not we're going to do a story about Elon Musk and his promotion of QAnon conspiracy theories. We might do it, we might not. You're gonna have to come back and find out, okay?
Ooh.
I'll see you then.
All right, we got food for thought trivia. We're giving away $100 gift cards from Blue Apron to 100 people on Friday. You know that you gotta watch the show live to get the trivia question. Although sometimes you can pull it off without it. All right, I'm being honest. For members, our 20th anniversary mini doc just dropped, so make sure you're enjoying that. In order to win Blue Apron gift cards or watch the documentary, you've got to be a member. So tyt.com/join. On the other hand, anybody on our YouTube community page can leave a nomination for Turk and Jerk of the Year, Best Person of the Year, Worst Person of the Year. So really looking forward to your ideas. And you know that Unbossed is Nina Turner's new show on the network, which you can get to at youtube.com/unbossedtyt. Since you know all those things, I'm moving on to our comments.
Wait, I gotta share something with you real quick.
Go.
David Begnod on Twitter just tweeted this with a photo of the individuals he's speaking of. Judge in Alabama finds US Army veteran Beverly Roberts, 85 years old, and Mary Alston, 61 years old, guilty of trespassing and disorderly conduct in connection to feeding and trapping cats for neutering on public property, which is not illegal. The city found it to be a nuisance.
Yeah, well,
we're going after elderly women now for feeding and neutering cats?
So at least in Alabama, they found the real culprit. It's not the people at the top at all, okay? It's the people that are feeding cats, 85-year-olds that are feeding cats. Okay, so that's welcome to America. So now back to the comments. James writes in, that was my tweet. I was so happy you saw it and responded, Anna, and thank you for recommending the pizza recipes when they were available.
They're dope. I'm glad you liked it.
All right, look at that, James. All right, great. I'm glad that you took advantage too. Effectos writes, and kind of sad that Roger Stone stopped showing up to places looking like an 1800s Coke dealer. 100%. Oh no, you just made us laugh. Effectos, $100 gift card. Okay, from Blue Apron, enjoy it. Rewards at tyt.com. You're definitely a member, so they'll give it to you. Okay, Irene writes in, I'm still disappointed in Larry David about the crypto ads. She says, pretty bad. Okay, that's funny. I like that. Brett Campbell, aka Dragging My Ass, wrote, Cenk, you made me laugh with that gonna squash your comment. Give yourself a $100 gift card. That's funny. Well, now this is so meta because you made me laugh about making you laugh. $100 gift card. Oh no, out of nowhere. Rewards at tyt.com. I got gift cards to give out. You guys are funny. What do you want me to do? Okay, this is a long one. Let me try to squeeze it in. Cheese Plates writes, you attribute change in Republican voters' support of Trump way too much to them thinking strategically. You yourselves have highlighted multiple times the influence of the media being consumed on the public's views. So the real changes in the media's message on Trump, also highlighted by yourselves, Republican voters thinking critically and coming to the decision to not vote for Trump is a very slim minority. So I love your point. It's a great point. It mainly is the media, but the media is, and that is a message simple enough, and it works on Democrats even more so. But the media either says good, bad, or can't win, can win. So it actually is simple enough. So the media is sending out, not that Trump is bad, but right-wing media is saying he can't win, and that's why it is.
Elon.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Anna, and H. Ray Huffman. All right, Anna, what's next?
Let's go to our favorite Twitter crank, Elon Musk. Seems like Elon Musk is lashing out a little bit following his embarrassing debacle on stage with Dave Chappelle, where the audience booed him. First, he put out a tweet pretending like they didn't boo him, that the majority of the audience actually loved him, which was one of the saddest things I've ever seen from someone who has so much power and so much money. But now we're also learning that he's no longer the richest man in the world, Cenk. Turns out Tesla stock not doing great. He's losing billions. And now someone else has earned the #1 spot as the top billionaire in the world.
Oh,
now,
so sad.
So sad.
How will he live? But by the way, we're kidding around because you can't possibly spend the money that he has or the #1 guy has, etc. But to him, I guarantee you, he's in a state of depression over it.
Oh no, billionaires, like all they do all day, they sit around a massive conference table and they just put it out on the table. That's it. It's a big genitalia measuring contest for them.
100%, except you just said one thing wrong, or you did one thing wrong.
What?
You went like this.
I know.
Like
I'm being way too generous to these guys.
It's like this.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Who's bigger? Who's bigger?
100%. Now, this comes after, again, Tesla shares closed down about 6.3% for the day and have more than halved in value this year, partially due to a sell-off that accelerated in the wake of Musk overpaying for Twitter. He paid $44 billion in this Twitter acquisition, and some analysts claim that he overpaid to the tune of $20 billion or more. Now, Bernard.
Higher.
Yeah,
as they
probably.
used to say in the old card shows, higher.
So the richest man now, who's worth $186 billion, is some French guy named Bernard Arnault. Great.
Arnault.
Whatever, I don't care.
Bernard Arnault. I do declare.
So how is Elon Musk clashing out? He's now promoting QAnon. And look, Elon Musk is now promoting QAnon. That's one of the headlines from Vice News, and this is what they're referring to. He shared a tweet that said follow, and then it had a white rat. Well, follow rabbit, right? And follow the white rabbit is a phrase from Alice in Wonderland, as some of you probably already know, but it's actually become synonymous with QAnon. And so when he puts that out there, of course, QAnon believers got all riled up about it. And here's how much you should care about it: 0%. He's doing it because he wants to upset you. So like, don't let him upset you. The QAnon conspiracy theorists are not gonna change their mind based on you getting upset at Elon Musk. You getting upset and sharing how upset you are only fires them up more, because that's their entire political ideology, just getting you upset.
No, I get it, but the QAnon guys are dangerous because we keep assuming that they don't really think it because it's so nuts, right?
No, they really think it, but what are we gonna do about it? There's literally nothing we can do about it.
No, but every time that they get more media attention through people like Elon Musk that now owns a giant media platform, right? they get larger and larger and larger. And so we told you the stories. People think, oh my God, I have demonic possessions and the pedophilia and all this stuff. A dad killed his kids, and the horror stories go on, political violence, etc. Because they genuinely believe that there are demons in the world and they're grappling with them, and that they've got to go save the kids from molestation and all this stuff. So Elon Musk is feeding these dangerous, honestly, psychopaths. And so this is what America has devolved to. Like, so in the old days, it's not like the super rich were really moral people, but there was a mythology around it, and people acted a little bit right in public, at least, so that people didn't think like, oh, okay, there's a problem here. And so the rich wouldn't come out and be like, all right, now everybody attack those people, kill the people who are molesting the kids. Like that would have been unthinkable. Now this lunatic is pushing these ideas forward on his giant freaking platform. How much damage can one person do? Well, maybe a limited amount. How much damage can one of the richest people in the world that owns one of the largest media platforms in the world do? Probably a lot. And then he's such a liar, and he's like, oh, LMAO, as if like, it was just a random white rabbit.
He's just another. He's just another version of Trump, right? So
for sure,
he's doing exactly what Trump would do. The plaza, like, rile people up, do something where he knows exactly what he's doing. Trump would retweet QAnon conspiracy theorists and be like, what are you talking about? I didn't know. That's not what I was doing. Like the whole plausible deniability game. Anyway, I'm exhausted by it. And we're not gonna have an impact on changing QAnon conspiracy theorists' mind. We're not gonna stop Elon Musk from being the crank that he is. So like, why get upset about it? That's where I'm at already.
I'm not upset about it. I'm just telling you that our job is to educate folks, because you'd be shocked at how many people think that Elon Musk is a normal person, it's genius. Like they thought about Trump. Oh, he's such a genius, he's so successful. We should do whatever he does because then we'll be successful. You know what the whole "the storm is coming" is about with QAnon? They think that all their political opponents are going to be arrested and then killed. And they're looking forward to that. And so now Elon Musk is like, oh, that's so funny. I'll rile them up and maybe they'll go kill some people. He's become Dr. Evil. The only thing he's missing is the goddamn pinky, right? So you're not clever. You're kind of a moron, Elon Musk.
He really strikes me as an incredibly insecure and sad guy.
Totally, 100%.
And so
he's the least happy man in America.
100%. Anyone who spends that much time, he tweets all day, responds to randos and their tweets all day, constantly does like these ooh, I'm threatening you with your blue check mark, right? So now people who've had the blue check mark or whatever for a long time before the Twitter acquisition are getting a notification indicating that pretty soon he's gonna get to determine whether or not you're a notable enough person to have a blue check mark. Ooh. Elon, take my blue check mark away. I don't care. Okay, yeah. I'm not sitting around like, oh my God, my blue check mark, oh my God, who cares?
But to be fair to Elon Musk on this one, and we're the fairest show in America,
blue check mark.
That is how a lot of people in Washington think.
Losers, losers. People paying for a blue check mark, losers.
So the people, and Anna's referring to the people who are theoretically at the top, right? And they're obsessed with status, so he's threatening their status. I get that, and I guarantee you a lot of people in DC are like, is he gonna take my blue mark away?
Take it away.
Oh my God, no, that's not right. That's not fair, you can't do that. Then I would be among the masses. Okay, just calm
he's
down.
already cheapened the blue check mark by letting anyone buy it. Like the blue check mark means nothing.
Yeah, so that's the longer story. But anyway, bottom line on this though is, look guys, Elon Musk was bullied as a kid, right? So this is him basically telling the cool kids, oh yeah?
I'm in charge now.
Who's the cool kid now? Look at me, look at all these people who follow me on Twitter. I must be the most popular because I get followed by all these people. And now I own the platform, and now I'm on with Dave Chappelle. And now I'm threatening your status. So who are the cool kids now? I got it. And if you weren't such a douche, I'd actually have empathy for you and sympathy for you on that. And because we're nerds, we're outsiders, right? But the way that you're acting out, all you're doing is saying, I wanted to be like the douchey cool kids, I just couldn't be, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a compelling argument.
Yeah, I just need Cenk to speak for himself because I'm not a nerd. Number two, though, I forgot my point because you calling me a nerd was just
threw you off your game.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what happens to nerds. She used to sit in front of the class all the time.
They don't need to know. They don't need to know about that.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that I could hear the teacher.
Oh my God, you proved my case better than anything I could ever say.
Sometimes
like
it's
that's
hard to hear
nerd
when you're in the
101.
back, you get distracted by the students playing around, passing notes, not paying attention. Sometimes you got to raise your hand and tell the teacher, they're passing notes, teacher. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I rest my case.
We got to take a break. We'll be right back.
Back on TOT. Let's go to Super Chat. BO writes in, finally caught up on White Lotus in time for a finale of an even darker season 2. True.
Yep.
Love it. Helps make me grateful that I'm not rich and screwed up like those people. What's the saying? More money, more problems. You're totally right, brother. Okay. And so for the rich don't have to be miserable. But in my experience, they generally are.
Self-inflicted wounds, I don't get it.
Yeah, and it's because they grew up, a lot of them grew up rich. If you grew up middle class or poor and then you become rich, you appreciate it more. But for the rich, they don't appreciate it. All they have is entitlement and they lose a work ethic. Is it all of them? Of course not. There's some wonderful rich folks who then give to charity and do other things that are great in the world, right? But generally speaking, they're a miserable lot. Yeah, be careful what you wish for.
Okay, I have a less important question to ask. For those of you who have watched the second season of White Lotus, have you ever skipped past the theme song? Or do you listen to the entire theme song because it's a banger?
Love that question.
It's so good.
I have an answer. I listen to it every time.
Every time. La 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 blah 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 blah.
It's amazing. I want to listen to it all night. Get high, listen to that. Boom, 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 boom.
Hell yeah, it builds up and then the beat drops.
Right, and then the pictures get weirder, and then there's the dudes getting all.
Yeah, they know. They
know. All right, here we go. Keep going. Joshua Brookhouse writes in, I've spent the last 4 days moving to a new rental and working on only a few hours of sleep, but listening to TYT has kept me going. Love you both. Happy that we could do that for you, Joshua. Thank you for the note. Prince writes in, been a TYT member since 2015. Love you guys. Cenk, you're my hero in news and politics. Also, can I get a birthday shout out? 36 years today. Happy birthday! And I think it's Jay Fair, so happy birthday, brother. I appreciate what you said, and I hope your birthday's great. Let's go to YouTube members. Embedded Dude says, I don't care if Trump runs, I just don't want Biden to run. I don't want either one of them to run. I think it's more important that Trump doesn't run. Any percentage chance that he ends democracy is a bad percentage chance. Just be done with it. The minute he's out and he's done for good, I'm gonna throw a party, man. And it is gonna be filled with blue apron stuff. Okay, we're gonna have a good time. I'm not playing here with you. All right, Aaron Parker says, love me some Cenk and Anna bringing the news. Thanks for keeping me sane, TYT. Thanks to the backstage people for making it happen too. 100%. Everybody at TYT makes a difference. Thank you for shouting them out. Joe Anderson says, I remember one time when Roger Stone popped out of a portal at the RNC some years back. Oh, great point, Joe, referring to when he attacked the Young Turks set with Alex Jones. Joe Anderson, $100 gift card for a brilliant point, rewards at TYT.com. Lonzetta said, my water bill has doubled this year in Colorado. I know, we're trying to cover for you, we're trying to fight for you. We'll be back. TYT Cenk and Anna with you guys. Also our members like Dudu Bean, who wrote in, I canceled the assignment of demonic portals. Okay, so that assignment's now being canceled. Have the weekend off. Progressive Canuck gifted 5 Young Turks memberships on YouTube. You're the best. We appreciate you, Casper.
By the way, I've read stories about how Roger Stone thinks of his bedroom as a demonic portal.
Apparently. That portal, you remember he first got kicked out of the Republican Party because he was a swinger and he used to bring in dudes to have sex with his wife. So,
which, by the way, no judgment, but he's, you know.
Should have stuck with that portal, brother.
Okay. I'm sure he does. Anyway, let's move on to something much more classy and important.
By the way, you can pick up a butt plug or a dildo at Target and CVS nowadays. I don't even know how we got here. Sorry, you may still be finishing your dessert. I apologize. No, but this is the state that we're living in right now.
Ah, yes. Republican lawmakers have dildos and double dongers on the mind as Americans suffer from high inflation, corporate greed, and all sorts of problems. And of course, that was Marjorie Greene just absolutely outraged that CVS sells things like vibrators and other sex toys for adults. So I don't know why she has an issue with that. I don't know why she's wasting any breath talking about that, especially considering she's a lawmaker in a country that has all sorts of issues. But nonetheless, let's hear more from her temper tantrum about adult items being sold at a store like CVS.
The producer for Tucker Carlson tonight happened to notice that CVS is now selling sex toys, and they appear to be a relative bargain. For example, there's a tush kush for $11.97, though the accompanying lotion that goes with it will set you back an additional $11.97. And if you've got the cash right there in the middle, the Buzzy Butt will run you $32.50. Information, just wanted you to know about New York.
But it's immoral to sell Marlboros, Trace, just so you know. Thank you for your reporting. You blow my mind every night.
Last time I checked, you can still buy cigarettes at places like CVS. And thank you for the detailed information about how much Buzzy Butt costs. I'm glad that he did his due diligence and really researched this topic. We needed to know the details, yeah.
By the way, for the record, Marlboros will kill you, whereas a tush kush will probably make you feel good. So yes, Marlboros are infinitely worse.
Which, by the way, I don't care. Smoke yourself to death. Enjoy.
Yeah, it's called freedom. But you know, in the old days, they used to do this, and they probably still do it, and you'll see it in the next spring break. It's a Hannity favorite. He'll put up pictures of scantily clad young women in bikinis and be like, can you believe this spring break girls and all the immoral things they're doing? Let's look at it for hours and hours, right? So this is their new version of it because they realize their audience is actually now into butt plugs. So they're like, can you look at this butt plug, the Buzzy Butt? Everybody looking at the Buzzy Butt for hours. Oh, tis, you really shouldn't do it. But we're gonna do another segment on it tomorrow.
You wanna know why stores like CVS sell these things? Because in this free market economy, they sell things that people buy. And they make money off of that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand what they're suggesting here. What are they suggesting? That adults, like that sex toys should be banned in America?
Yeah.
So I mean, why are they getting involved in what adults decide to do in the privacy of their own homes? Right? So if someone wants a vibrator, they should be able to buy a vibrator. It's none of Tucker Carlson's freaking business. Right? And by the way, if we want to go down this road and we want to start going after people for being adults who are interested in pleasure, I mean, we should send the Gestapo over to Tucker Carlson's house to make sure there are no sex toys in his bedroom.
Yeah,
right?
What difference does it make to you? I mean, remember Tucker Carlson did that hilarious segment where he was like, if Biden wins, they're gonna make you drink Starbucks coffee every day, right? I'll note for the record that never happened because Tucker Carlson thinks you're a lunatic and that's why he says things like that because he thinks you'll believe it. Meanwhile, though, they're like, what's up your butt? We want to know what's in your butt. Okay, don't put that in. And in that one, don't do that one. Not that one. Don't pleasure yourself that way. Don't touch your body. Don't do this. We want to control your lives. You lunatics want to control what's in us. Okay, like every part of our personal lives. Tucker Carlson's like, so what else? Hey Gallagher, what else did they do with the Buzzy Butt? These guys, of course, they're projecting when they say they want to control your. We want to control your lives. We want to give you higher wages and better health care. They're the ones who are obsessed with controlling your lives. So just go live your own life, Tucker Carlson. You're infinitely rich. Shut up about what we do with our lives.
How is this a freaking story? Can we just?
How does this hurt anyone?
How is this a story? It's a story on the most watched show in cable news. It is a story as if this is breaking news. They sell dildos in some stores in America. Who cares? Here, sex toys have been available at mainstream retailers for more than a decade. This is not news. Condom companies like Trojan and Durex started selling their own brands of sex toys in major retailers as early as 2011. By 2012, stores including CVS, Walgreens, Kroger, Safeway, Target, and Walmart sold toys alongside prophylactics. So how is this a news story?
So look, first of all, I love that they're like, oh, one of Tucker's producers found the buzzy butt. Oh, did he? Where did he find it? Anyways, but guys, this is for us, the reason we're covering it is because they're actually trying to pass laws on this stuff. Back in 2007, Ted Cruz filed a brief with his legal team did with the US Court of Appeals, and they argued that public morals demanded that there was government interest in, quote, discouraging prurient interest in sexual gratification, combating the commercial sale of sex. So they're saying, we don't want you to have sexual gratification. But if you're married to Ted Cruz, congrats, you already have that. So he already passed that bill in his own house. Okay, but for the rest of us, why do you care if we have sexual gratification? What is wrong with you perverts? So, and the last part of it, his brief said that they wanted to, quote, discourage autonomous sex. That means sex with yourself. It literally, by definition, affects no one else. And the guys saying that they're in favor of freedom say, I want to control every part of your goddamn life. Don't touch this, don't touch that. I don't care if it's in your own house and you're not hurting anyone else. I'm going to control your body. Freedom. I'm in favor of freedom, okay? So it's absurd. F off already, Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson. Go play with your buzzy butt on your own time and leave us alone.
I'm sorry, that was hilarious. They got it. I mean, kudos for the fun names for these items, I guess.
Indeed.
You know, right? All right, anyway, we got to move on. There's more going on in the world, so let's discuss it.
Use your clitoris before it disappears. So if the clitoris is not regularly stimulated, it can lose its function, and this is called clitoral atrophy. It occurs when there's inadequate blood flow to the clitoris, and this can significantly decrease your sex drive. So make sure to use your clitoris or you could lose it forever.
That dire warning came from period pain relief brand Ovira. Over 1 million people have seen that video, and it led to panic among people who think that they might suffer from clitoral atrophy if they don't stimulate themselves enough, which, by the way, stimulate yourself all day. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but the information contained in that video is not really accurate, okay?
But it's not that inaccurate either. That's the interesting part.
Yeah, so the clitoris is an amazing thing.
Agreed.
Okay, so if you, the phrase, if you don't use it, you'll lose it, doesn't really apply. So it's not gonna disappear if you stop using it or stimulating it.
Kinda.
Okay. So clitoral atrophy is a real phenomenon. Let's be real about that, okay? But it doesn't make the clitoris go away entirely, and it's not something that's essentially irreparable harm, okay? So Dr. Janelle Howell, a pelvic physical therapist, says this: it's important to acknowledge that the entire clitoral organ doesn't disappear, but this is the amazing part, but the size of it shrinks, retreating back behind the hood, which can make it appear like the clitoris is gone. But it's not gone, it's still there.
But it's kind of buried. Okay. So no, what I found, there's two amazing parts of the story. One is, it turns out the clitorati rule us all. Okay.
As it should be.
Yeah, well, maybe that kind of sounds interesting. Anyway.
We're coming.
Well, maybe. Okay. Anyways, no, seriously, two interesting parts of the story. One is that it turns out this phenomenon is not entirely inaccurate, like I said. So it can happen. Now, it's not just because you didn't use it. A lot of times it has to do with hormones that your body is producing or not producing. It's a combination of things. And if they're not producing the hormones, you're less likely to use it. So then it's a double whammy. And it can atrophy and it can get kind of buried and stuff. Now, it's not that common. You don't have to panic over it and you don't have to be like, I gotta use it today, otherwise it's gonna be a goner, right? No, but it's not a completely crazy, it's not totally false. So that's interesting. The second interesting thing is, when I was growing up, there was this thing called brand safety, right? And advertisers didn't want to be near things that were controversial. By the way, they still apply that to news. So they're like, oh, the Young Turks, they like fight against racism and homophobia. So that's controversial. I don't know if we want to be involved in that. Meanwhile, though, other brands have realized, oh, it's no holds barred. There are no rules anymore, and no one cares about your stupid brand safety. So they're on TikTok going, you better buy our product, otherwise your clitoris is gonna disappear.
But okay.
People are panicking. Oh no, what? All right.
Look,
I can't even tell how this product's related to that.
That's exactly what I was about to say, right? We're talking about a menstrual pain relief company. That's like their brand, that's what they do. But they're talking about, you really gotta make sure your clitoris is stimulated enough, there's enough blood flow there so it doesn't atrophy. It led to some panic, right? So it's like some people were worried, like, oh no, maybe I need to do something here. But everybody calm down, you're probably fine. And I do want to also just talk about just the lack of knowledge, because I think the panic also demonstrates that there's a lack of knowledge about people's own bodies. And I think that's a failure of our public school system intentionally in a lot of parts of this country that do not want kids to learn about human anatomy. They think it's wrong. And I'm talking about red states that pass certain restrictions when it comes to that kind of education. Now in 2019, researchers in the UK, so this is not in the United States, the UK, asked 2,000 adults to look at an anatomy chart and label the clitoris, labia, vagina, and urethra. The results were, well, not good. According to Victoria Waldersee, a data journalist, a third of both women and men the men part does not surprise me, did not know what the clitoris was. 59% of men could not accurately label where the vagina is located. Oh my God.
Ain't that the guy's that? It's true, right?
61% of men could not correctly indicate the urethra, and 52% of men could not find the labia.
Yeah, but okay, now the most shocking part is not in that one. I read it in a different article. 49% of women didn't know where the vagina was.
It's not that they don't know what the vagina was. I read that stat as well.
Dude, where's my vagina?
They were asked to label the different components of the female genitalia.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, that you went into the details there and got the right results. See, that's journalism right there, okay? So now, look, last thing on this is just a sophisticated version of what Alex Jones does. Alex Jones makes most of his money from penis pills. And he does segments where he's like, oh, because of the water and the globalists, what they have, your penis is shrinking every day, and you're losing semen count, and you're losing this, and your pill, it's gonna go away. You need to buy these pills. You need to buy these pills. And he apparently made hundreds of millions of dollars from that. So this is apparently an old trick. Don't believe the hype. It's not going anywhere, okay? All right. Let's go up and down a little bit though. All right, so, okay, we gotta go, but we have a crazy bonus episode. TYT.com/join.
Bye.
Sexual temptation.
Oh. Indisputable has been named the fastest growing news TV show in the United States of America, compared to all shows on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and roughly 30 others. What do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable. Donald Trump radicalized citizens. He's the chief terrorist. Republicans still want you to think that critical race theory is the greatest evil that can happen in K-12 education. It's not even taught. I guarantee you this, David. If he would have taken a knee during the national anthem to bring awareness to the need for more money for cancer research in America, he would not have had that response. It was the fact that he took a knee for black folk and brown folk. You rather pick the voters because you're scared of the voters picking the politicians. It frightens you. But we coming. When you are in a privileged position, equality looks like oppression to you. The Karenicity runs deep in this one. We provide a mirror for reflection and a mirror for correction.
So what if I have 35? Don't hit me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
So let's put up the graphic of this Karen in